Wish I could tell you that I want you here with me, but you'll never love me like the way we used to be. Too far from Saturn, lost in the patterns. Where's the stars align so we could be free? Palms are sweaty, knees unsteady. I can't see my head on straight. Heart is heavy, wasn't ready. Don't think I can see your face. Now we're just friends. Hold on to the ends. It feels like forever away.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we beg to know. Like what did the song mean? There's no tomorrow. Oh, you know I try to find a purpose in my life to drive me, to guide me. Oh, doctor, I feel dead inside.
Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing? Hello. I see the hydrate. I see cat treats. I did give the cats treats, and I will give them some more. They're going to be like, what? What? How y'all doing? We are chilling here just for a couple minutes before Gem is ready. But we are going to be chatting tonight about boys. Sleepover style, except Gem and I talk about our different and maybe some similar but certainly some different experiences growing up as people who are of different genders, and more importantly, how society viewed us as kids as different genders, getting into video games as kids, because Jem and I were both really into Super Smash Bros. Melee around the same time. And I sure had an off-putting experience with Super Smash Bros. Melee and gaming in general. But yeah, how are y'all doing? Let me get the cats on. And then I told Jem I would hop into a VC. The cats have no idea, because I gave them treats, and then I gave them their dessert, their canned food, so they're probably like snoozing, like, what's going on? What is it? What's up? What's up? We don't even know. There's one. There's two. Coco. Hi. What's up? Do you want to say hi? Say thank you for redeeming cat treats, chat. Hi, are we ready? No chomper. No chomper. Well, okay, that's a chomper. There's one. There's Scooter. There we go. He's got to take it elsewhere. Hi, Debbie. Why do you... Didn't you hear? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. I have a third cat, Coco, but he seems to not be coming up. Hi. Can I sit? May I sit, my friend? And say thank you for redeeming the kitty treats as always. Extra kitty treats today. Okay, well, I am gonna take the chair. I am gonna take this. Excuse me. Oh, thank you. Hi, DJ. How are y'all doing? Say hi to Scooter. Scooter might still hang out with us. Scooter hung out with me during my therapy session today, because I do talk therapy remotely, and he was just sitting in the cat bed right over here the whole time during my therapy session. He's so good. What a good guy. He's my good lad. Jem's feeding his own cat right now. And I'm gonna go ahead and get us prepped. How are y'all doing? How's your weekend? Are y'all I don't know if it's like hot everywhere else, but in New York, it's almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And I believe it is gonna pass 90 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. So yeah, that's gonna be a time, and I'm not looking forward to it. So I exercised today in the morning. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get myself to do it tomorrow. I don't think I can. You just got running over to feed the parents' cats. In a couple of weeks, I am pet sitting for my best friend, and she has 3 dogs and 4 cats. And I'm gonna be pet sitting all of them while she is traveling internationally for like a week and a half. That buddy back there. He chilling. But yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself because I want to... Jem, I believe, is going to be the one who's mostly leading the conversation. Jem has ideas for discussion, as always. So, I'm here. I'm here to yap. That's what I do. I'll just be yapping. Temperature's ramping up here for sure, too. Oh my gosh, had to kick the AC on last night. Yeah, I turned on our AC last night. I turned it on earlier today. I might have to also turn it on during stream. I've got the fan on right now. Yeah, I saw that Whip Race got first place in beta bracket. Congrats! I was like, those are my friends! Those are my friends! I know those guys! I got the t-shirt. I got the Whip Race t-shirt that I ordered, and I put it in the wash. I gotta wear it soon. So good. You hit 80? Yeah, I think we're hitting 90 tomorrow. I hate it. I hate it so freaking much. I don't like heat. But then it like goes to like 60 degrees later on in the week after thunderstorms, so. Immediately went to DM Tonic, congrats. So what, Whip Race, you guys got first in beta this month. Malibu got second in beta last month. We didn't get to play this month because I was commentating for the Sendo Q finale qualifiers, and I was also we had various members doing various things. Sherbert got home from Europe Friday night and then played Low Ink on a pickup on Saturday. Mercy was working, Nina's busy prepping for a move, Sherbert's also prepping for a move, and Emmy was off, I think, just having the weekend off, so we were like, yep, we busy, but yeah, hopefully, I'm hoping we can play in June. I'm hoping, but this summer's gonna be pretty wild for Malibu. We have a lot of people undergoing some pretty big things. Hello.
Typical man sets the time for the thing himself and shows up late anyway.
Of course. How's Romeo?
He is doing just swell right now. It's his favorite time of day. Well, I guess he has two, but this is probably his favorite because he gets the canned food at night.
Oh, yeah, my cats too. I gave them theirs an hour ago.
Yeah. It's the way that I can get him to eat his medicine.
Oh, yeah, I've had to do that. Gotta trick them.
Deception. Okay. Great, the lighting on the screen. God, there's so much that I could have set up earlier. But
ain't that the way?
Okay, that should be pretty good. All right, so that's good. We need to make the titles not test stream.
True. It is no longer a test. It is for real. Debbie has a point. Romeo is a good reason to be late.
All right, thanks, Debbie. I don't know if I agree with that myself. I feel like I should probably have taken care of Romeo sooner, but I'll take any forgiveness I can get.
Oh, I've got Scooter in the cat bed next to me.
Alright. Titles updated. Boink, boink. And then I should be able to go live here. Boink.
Boink.
Okay. So I'm live there, and I'm also just gonna go and do social media shout-outs that we're live here.
Oh, is Blue Sky working? Because like 10 minutes ago, it was dead for me.
Oh, I haven't checked yet. I'm currently on the forbidden site.
The site that shall not be named.
Got that there. Boink. Boink is the sound of progress.
That's true.
Come on, Blue Sky, wake up.
It's sleeping.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get the butterfly today.
Butterflies gotta rest sometimes.
Suppose so.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just need to post this in my Discord server. And we should be good to go.
Hooray!
Have we added each other in Splatoon? I have no idea if
shoot,
I have.
I don't know if we have.
Okay, I'm gonna DM you my friend code, and in the meantime, I need to get on Twitch and get our chats fused.
Yes. Haha, chat. You cannot see the friend code going in.
That's how that works, huh?
It's not allowed.
Squirrels
Did
just
it
shared
just
300
send an
bits.
invite?
RPG bits.
Oh, okay. Oh, send invite. There we go. There's a button. I've sent you an invite.
Let me see if it showed up. I don't know if it did. Let me try sending one.
Okay.
There, that should be out. Yeah, it turns out we were
grabbing
not.
the friend
We were not
request.
friends on the Switch.
I mean, I'm not super surprised. It's like, I'm thinking of when we've even interacted. It's like, up until this stream, we have like one singular exchange of 2 messages on Discord. We've talked to each other in person at like, it was like LTC or something like that one time.
It was.
And otherwise, it's just like, I don't know, maybe posting on Twitter or something.
Yeah, probably.
That's
Some
been
socials.
about all that it's been. But that's okay because I trust you with my life. I still don't see on.
I may have gotten finally the thing from. Yeah, now it showed up.
And now I'm hearing, so I'm going to mute audio.
Yes.
And I'm going to start sharing chat. Shared chat started.
Hooray!
And now, if someone says something in Rose's chat, we should be able to see it, and it'll be cool.
Yeah. See, oh my god, people, right?
Yeah, there's... Wait, you've got another Jamie?
Yeah, yeah, we've got JJ. I know.
Oh boy, okay.
You know what, at least
we've got a Jamie...
you two have different
We got
colors.
a Jamie Jiggles and now a J Jamilio. Which I'm sure is not how that's pronounced based on what you just said, but...
You know what, JJ, I might have to start calling you J Jamilio.
Okay, and I'm just double checking that the stream chat, it's the Jamies.
The Jamie Army. And
JJ
yes.
Emil, yo. Well, that does show that the chat thing is working. All right,
Yeah.
awesome. I'll just make. You made a room already, didn't you?
In Splatoon, I can make one right now.
Gotcha. Okay, you were talking about a password earlier, and I thought that meant that.
Oh, I do.
Oh,
yes.
you were talking about the friend code.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got to have the Cocoa Melon for them. You know, we've got to put the Subway Surfers on the corner of the screen for them to look at. All right, thank you.
Of course, yeah. You know, just the scrolly side.
I will protect your password with my army of cats.
Slim, you can't wage war on spiders. I was just talking on Blue Sky earlier today about how there was a scary wasp in my office and I had to get it out, but spiders are okay because they eat bugs. And they don't sting me.
Yeah. There are some arachnophobes out there, and I get it for them, but also if you're not an actual arachnophobe, I don't know, we gotta start like a spider show.
So true.
Potty__Tom just subscribed for 58 months.
I'll just
Spiders
go
are cool.
do shooty things.
Pat, thank you for the resub. We appreciate you. We're getting set up in some Splatoon, and then we're gonna chat about boys and why they're icky.
Icky boy here can confirm.
Icky. Yeah, I saw this rotation, and I was like, this is a Dreadbringer rotation.
And Devi is also offering to be a 4th VC not required. If we would like,
Devi, if you want to hop in at any point, feel free.
That way we have a backline.
True. I'm already on it, Pat.
Java just cheered 100 bits. Yes, I can
Already
vote.
on it.
They killed my stone-shard character.
And thanks for that reminder, because I don't have my alerts pulled up, and I need to see if somebody does that.
Oh,
Alright.
we did get a backline, just not a Hydra.
Yeah, just not Devi.
Yeah, not the flanking Hydra.
Oh. Well, I know what she's going to be playing, because she's been practicing a lot of different weapons. She's got a leader, she's got a pencil.
Oh.
She's even working on some midline stuff, like she might have to play like a blaster or something.
Oh,
So-
I will say, I just started playing Blaster this weekend, and I was like, oh, this...
Oh, it's J-Lo!
J-Lo! And I was just like, yeah, that's not that hard.
Huge J-Lo fan. What team were they? I think it was was it Northern Virginia? No, it was, they were on one of the LCS teams, but they also tried out for my team at one point. And
Oh, fun.
And they don't like that I'm here, so I'm gonna leave. Yeet. But, okay, so to get started with the conversation, which I'm starting to realize is going to be more difficult while playing Splatoon, but that's fine. That's going to be part of the challenge. You guys are going to get to watch us be a little bit verbally challenged. There's someone flanking behind left. A little bit verbally challenged because we're trying to also play Squidio game.
Yeah.
But
we just killed them all. Now we can talk.
There we go. Yeah, we bought ourselves 2 seconds.
Shoot you.
Eight. Okay.
Yeah, Jim, I forget. Are we like roughly around the same age? We're both sort of like 90s kids.
I think so. Yeah. I don't actually. I tell people I'm 42, which I'm not. It's been an ongoing thing since I was a teacher, which, mind you, was back in like 2016, 2017, and I still said I was 42 then.
Of course.
But the kids would always ask, and so I just tell them 42. They'd be like, "What? You're not 42?" And I'd be like, "All right, you got me. I'm 57."
You got me.
And from there, they kind of got the idea most of the time that, all right, we're not going to find this information out. But,
It's a mystery.
But yeah, I think we're about the same age.
Yeah, so I think we were like growing up with games that are around the same time, with seeing some
Yeah,
of
and like the way that you
same
described
things.
it was something that really spoke to me. You actually unlocked some memories.
Oh, which ones?
Never Queen just cheered 100
Well,
bits.
I'll definitely be getting to
Actually,
that.
6
I just wanted to give chat a little bit of context here. I saw an interview between Roa and Rose, and it was about sexism in the Splatoon community, because they are both femme and were sharing their experiences of that in the scene. And it was a really cool conversation. Highly recommend that everyone goes and sees that. And I was hearing a lot about the experiences you were sharing, and it inspired a lot of thoughts about my experience. Things like, okay, so this is how women feel like they're being treated. And I felt like I had some insight as to, oh, here's why boys are like that. Here is our problem that is contributing to this experience that you're having. And I felt like that's something that was valuable to bring to the conversation so that we can, like, have the language to talk to the problem. Hi, it's me, I'm the problem. About how to make that feel better for everybody involved.
Yeah, true. Because a lot of this gender stuff does also affect boys in some pretty harmful ways as well.
Right, and it's like, even if it were totally, like, one-sided in the sense that, like, boys aren't directly impacted by this, just the fact that it's something that will help you get along better with people who are not boys is
True.
reason enough. Like, that is still something that will make the boys happier.
True.
So, one of the things that I've shared about this somewhat already, because I did a stream called "This Is Also Dating Advice."
I remember.
Sorry, this is exclusively dating advice. This is exclusively dating advice.
Yeah.
This Is Also Dating Advice has been a meme on my channel for a very long time, because a lot of my videos, they're about aspects of Splatoon that might apply to other things than just Splatoon. And on one of those early videos, I'm going to be tanking a rank, by the way, because I'm not thinking a lot about what I'm doing and going 5 and 12.
Thanks for carrying us, JJ.
Part of it. Oh yeah, and I forgot to tell us to wait so that Devi can join.
Devi, give us
Sorry,
one more
Devi.
game.
But yeah, I think the fact that, like, us two are going to be talking the whole time, like, everyone else is going to be making us look bad. But to be fair, that was also just a strong team. Like, JLo is a very good player. I'm not at all surprised to have lost there, but I spoke in that stream about some experiences that I had that I feel conditioned me as a boy and later as a man to behave differently towards girls and women than I naturally would have. And, like, we know this is called gender. That's how that works. But one of the things that happened really, really early on was that I felt like I was highly discouraged from ever interacting with girls because at an early age, it was not positive attention that you would get if somebody thought that you had a crush on someone.
Yeah.
And as soon as you were talking to a girl, they'd be like, "Ooh, you have a crush, don't you?" And my first experience with that, I literally didn't even know what the word crush meant, and I was still being accused of it, and that was insanely frustrating.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Also, we just got raided. Thank you for the raid. Gecko raid?
Hey!
Let's see. That was from Silly Gecko. Thanks for bringing everybody over, Silly Gecko. I don't think I am aware of Silly Gecko, but I'm happy to be aware of them now, and they have a great tag, so that must bode well.
Must be very silly.
We've just been getting started in talking about... talking about gender, our experiences of it, and how they have impacted the way that we've played video games. But going back to my story, early on, I had, like, my best friend in preschool was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, in preschool, your concept of what girl is like, they might have longer hair and might wear a skirt. That's about all you got.
Yeah,
that's all there is to work with. And so at the time, it was like, well, we like reading the same books. So we're both good at reading, and so we're reading more advanced stuff than the average bear. And we play on the playground together, and it's fine. And so what's the problem here? But I remember being like discouraged from interacting with her because people thought I had a crush. I didn't know what a crush was, and they kept just going, "You do have a crush, because why would you say you don't know if you did?" Like, it became so annoying that I genuinely started distancing myself more from her.
You know, that happened to me in middle school. For whatever reason, I did not get the like, oh, you must have a crush on him until I was in middle school. But yeah, at that point, I did stop like talking to a bunch of my male friends because
and
it's
it was
really
the
annoying.
older kids that were doing it. So maybe I just got like an especially early dose of it. But yeah, it was like K through 6 or something like that. It was a weird like Montessori school.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, it was the older kids who would look at that, literally like a 3-year-old, and assume that that was what was going on, instead of just like, no, we are two humans who enjoy the same things. And I feel like that's kind of a microcosm for how it goes with video games, that like, we have very similar interests at a young age. And there were a lot of girls, in retrospect, this is the part that jumped out to me about your interview. There were a lot of girls who liked video games, even that I interacted with and knew that they liked playing video games. And it's so weird to me now that, number one, I don't remember, it took me like hearing your interview to remember that. And number two, that it got so like compartmentalized in my brain at the time that could be a thing that would happen. That like, sure, they like video games, but it's not like we're going to be part of the same social group that's centered around video games. Why would we do that? That's silly. And so like your experience, especially of saying that you got labeled a tomboy, and that was kind of how maybe something you identified with, or at least something that felt like a better label.
Yeah.
That broke that open in my mind. Like, oh wait, I remember hearing about girls who felt like that, and talking to girls who felt like that. And one of them actually did have a crush on me that wasn't requited, and that didn't end super well. So maybe that's part of why that doesn't. That I don't remember that, but like that whole aspect, that whole like side of society is just something that I feel like I had not engaged with at all consciously for such a long time, and that was something that brought that up in me. So I'm like so curious what it's like to be on that side of that relationship, to like have been the tomboy into the thing that boys are supposed to do, as opposed to being the boy experiencing the tomboys.
Yeah, I had gender confusion as a child. I remember in the interview with Roa, I'd mentioned how a lot of the struggles, especially back then in like the mid to late 90s into the 2000s, was this
I remember you hit stop for Debbie.
Yes, thank you, because I had already forgotten. There was such a rigid structure of like, what does it mean to be a girl, and what does it mean to be a boy? And there was just very, very strict gender roles, even as a kid. But like, they make even less sense as a kid, because you're already like you mentioned, oh, like I don't really have a concept of like what a girl is or what a boy is. We're just like, yeah, it's whatever. And I like struggled so much with figuring out, okay, well, like, so then what gender am I? So then I was like, I guess I'm a boy for the longest time. I was like, oh, I guess I'm a boy because I like all the boy hobbies. And they're like, wait, no, not like that. You're a girl. And I know for some, especially like trans men, that like that sort of experience did help, eventually then figure out like, oh, actually I am a man. For me, I was like, no, I just hate gender roles and I'm confused why everybody keeps telling me that boys like video games and girls don't. And I was like, well, I guess I'm a boy then. And then later
to contextualize, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I know,
no,
I'm being such a man. No.
I was gonna go into the tomboy thing, but no, you first before I go into the tomboy stuff.
Just like a little context for those who might be younger, like, I'm sure there's some of this still.
I'm sure.
But at the time, it was like, if you were a boy, you had a lunchbox that had like toy soldiers on it. If you were a girl, you had a lunchbox that had ponies on it.
Yeah.
Like,
the two genders.
I remember looking at a backpack. It was one. Do you remember Lisa Frank?
Absolutely.
That art design? I remember looking at one of those backpacks and being like, "Oh, cool! There's a seal on it," and not noticing all of the like rainbow sparkles and everything in the background of it. And I'm like, "I like the seal. I want that one." And my mom just like was like, "Well, okay, he wants this one. We're gonna buy this one," and like bringing that to school. And I'm surprised how little I got made fun of for that, but I very quickly learned and got a different one. But like, I think that there's been incredible social progress on that in the intervening years.
Yes.
I think it is like way different in that regard. Like, this is back when that moment in the Sandlot, like, you play ball like a girl, like that was an insult.
Yeah,
that was serious, and we make fun of it, but like, that was, you could unironically play that clip at that time and like kids would get it. So just wanted to put that out there so that we've got the right kind of understanding of what's going on in the background. But please go on about the tomboy experience.
Yeah, I know some of you are young and or maybe like, I have no concept of what that is like to grow up with, and it was bad. It was bad. And yeah, I know Jupiter just mentioned that in some ways, like, girls are able to play around with like gender stuff a bit easier than boys are, and I do think I agree with that. And a lot of that does go into like the tomboy stuff, where it was like people were like, "Oh no, you're not a boy, you're a tomboy," and how at the time I definitely very much like identified with that label, and I was like, "Fine, yeah, I'm a tomboy. I like boy stuff, and I play soccer, and I hate dresses and skirts." I was such a hater of the color pink, which is so funny now. I'm like, I love pink.
I know.
Bright pink.
Your Discord text, your dresses.
I am so femme now. As a kid, I was like, no, being a girl is like the worst thing I can think of, so I'm a tomboy, I guess. And yeah, doing like feminine stuff as a boy was absolutely unheard of then. I had a neighbor who was into cheerleading, and he definitely got made fun of it for like wanting to do what was considered a very girly hobby.
Yeah, like having that title tomboy, it feels like it kind of gave people permission. It gave them like, oh, this is just a thing that exists. It like validated it. It's like, the fact that people had a name for it, the fact that that was a thing you could be and that people would accept you for, like, sure, they'd call you something different, but it's not like it was a weird kind of different.
Yeah, and like, in some way, like nowadays, I don't think I really ever see tomboy used much nowadays, and I think now...
I was just thinking, like, I haven't heard that.
That's a stupid
like,
term.
I haven't heard that term in probably decades.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe some of you younger listening to the interview were like, what the heck is a tomboy? And I guess if you're like, what is that? Those are just girls who were seen as a bit more boyish. I had short hair as a kid and hated growing it out and brushing it. And I wore pretty baggy clothes. And I played co-ed soccer and got mistaken as a boy a lot of the time just because of I was skinny and tiny and had short hair and was, you know, there were a bunch of boys on the team, so they just assumed I was a really short boy. and I was just into like games and whatnot, and those were considered very much a boy hobby then. I know there were other girls playing video games. I did not know them in my school, at least. I feel like if they existed, they were really quiet about it.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, was it kind of an underground thing for girls to play video games? Like, I know there were a lot who would like play with their brothers, and that's the context in which they always talked about it, or with their fathers.
Yeah,
But,
that
like,
was always the way people
was
talked
it
about
just a
it.
thing that like some girls did at sleepovers and some didn't, or did they just like hide them? Like, was there a stigma around it?
I think a lot of it was that there were fewer girls playing video games back then than there were boys, because it was just like less shown to us a lot of the time until and I know Strings talked about this in their interview with Roa, as somebody who's trans mask and wasn't into games for a while.
It's on my list, haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, Strings mentions at one point about how, like, during the DS era, there were finally like a lot of games being marketed to girls, but there was very particular games being marketed to girls. It was very much like all sim based games and
Nintendogs.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for Nintendogs on the Switch. I've been waiting for years. I want it. I love sim games as well, but it was very much like, oh, if you're a girl, then you only like those sorts
You
of
play
games.
The Sims.
Yeah, or iCarly, iCarly on the DS. Yeah, it was things that were already gendered as pretty feminine. They were like, yeah, we can safely market those to girls. But I will say, I don't know if you remember, but there was a Detective Barbie game. There were a couple of them on PC. And I played those when I was young. And I think that was maybe the first time I played a game that was more explicitly feminine. And I really liked it. It was probably one of the first times I was like, oh, girls can be pretty cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you got that kind of representation then. Like, because there's a lot of like, I remember things like Barbie Horse Adventure being taken as kind of like a little bit of a joke, like, oh, I'm the world record speedrunner of Barbie Horse Adventure, and like you're supposed to laugh at that, right?
Right.
But also like, okay, like how far does that go? Obviously, like, I can't imagine that Barbie Horse Adventure is this incredibly deep, complex, competitive game or anything like that. But where does the this is for girls enter into that disdain, as opposed to like the actual analysis of the depth? No boy knows what you actually did in Barbie Horse Adventure.
Right.
They just know it was a Barbie game.
Yeah, they were like, Barbies and horses, those are girls' things. But I will say, y'all, Detective Barbie on the PC, this is probably nostalgia tinted glasses, but I thought it was awesome. It felt like Nancy Drew, but with a Barbie coat of paint on it.
That's cool. And I think one of the things that did actually like make me at least dimly aware that there was a little bit of a bubble around my demographic was starting to go to game stores when I was old enough to actually go out and like buy or trade games.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that like some of the games are, not marketed for me clearly, but I'm seeing them everywhere, so they must be doing well. Like I had that thought at one point, like, why do I always see these games? Like that they wouldn't make them if they didn't sell at least somewhat.
Yeah.
So there must be someone who actually wants this.
Yeah, I've never looked at or known where to look at specific sales numbers for some of those games. A lot of them were definitely on the DS. I can think of a lot of those games.
Yeah, that had
like,
a lot of shovelware too.
There was a lot of DS games I would see getting resold at GameStop. And I'm sure some of those were not good games. I am
some of those were probably true. But you can say that about all art too. It's what is it? Sturgeon's Law, 90% of everything is crap.
Yeah, it's true. And
like it was originally about science fiction novels, but it was rapidly found that applied to all
everything.
Things.
Yeah, and so then I did not play a lot of like games that were more gendered towards girls because that was a little bit later. I was already really solidly into video games when like that marketing push happened. And all of those things have always just been marketing pushes. A lot of the stuff that was like advertised for boys. It was just, this was a very consistent marketing idea for, okay, boys like this, girls like that. It was very rigid, just marketing and advertising teams having an extremely narrow view of who plays what game and who consumes what media. And we still get that to an extent now. Like, I remember there was some, I think, Disney show back in the 2010s era that was getting pretty popular with a female demographic, and the execs were like, wait, but this was a show for boys, we can't have that, we're canceling the show.
Oh my god.
This isn't the right
That's
demographic.
Crazy.
It's just so...
I do feel like part of that strategy was to be self-reinforcing, that not only was it designed to appeal to the boys or the girls, whoever, so you could sell things to them, but that it was also in part like making the boys and the girls want more of that thing. So they had like that kind of captive audience that'd be like, oh, we know that this specific group of people is going to want this thing.
Yeah, that sounds right to
like,
me.
it definitely, that is an effect that it had on society at the very least, whether it intended to or not initially.
Yeah, that matches my vague understanding of marketing theory. And so just a lot of that was like, okay, girls play this, boys play that. And I think it was a lot of that push that really informed gaming culture. And that is still relevant. I think you even mentioned, I know it in a recent video, about the impact of Gamergate. And I lived through a lot of that as a very, very young adult, having like a first media job doing games criticism and games reviewing and games news writing, and just being
And I
there.
want to hear so many things about that, because I'm so curious.
Oh my
about,
gosh.
like, what your experience was like and everything. Like, I want to know what your job was. I like, feed me.
I worked at The Escapist, which used to be a respected, a respected place, and then became a Gamergate hellhole.
Incredible.
I
had no idea I had this connection. I want
yes,
now I have more questions.
I am a couple degrees removed from
I'm a big Yahtzee fan.
Milo Yiannopoulos, however you pronounce his name, because the publisher of The Escapist at the time, after The Escapist, later went on to like manage a bunch of stuff for like Milo's company. And I was like, I hate that I used to work for this person. I hate that I'm like just this 1 degree removed from this really awful person.
Wow.
But I was not surprised, because I was like, I saw firsthand when I was like, hi, I work for you and I'm being harassed. And he was like, well, maybe you should just
for the
listen
youngins,
to them.
Milo Yiannopoulos was a provocateur. He was very public online figure who espoused a lot of what we now call alt-right values. He was kind of proto-alt-right.
Yeah.
And he was gay, which gave him this ability to, like... There's this phenomenon where someone... I know there's a very derogatory word for it in some other cultures, but basically you're someone who is from a minority group, but who aligns with a group that a lot would consider to be more anti-minority, and you work sort of as camouflage, and you receive social graces from that group for basically being able to camouflage them. That's the way that I kind of interpret it. It's like, you're not like other girls.
Yeah, it does have that vibe.
It's like a very similar social process. And so he was very prominent in early days of like Gamergate and things like that. He was like one of the major speaking people of the movement.
Yeah, he helped it spread
I don't know what
quite
ended
a
up
lot.
happening to him. I don't know how he nosedived so hard afterward that we haven't heard about him since, but...
Yeah. Yeah, and there are a lot of links between various people who got involved with Gamergate on well, not even conservative. I would say just very firmly far right wing media personalities who then got involved in the Trump administration in 2016. So like there is still very much a link that is still affecting things today, and a lot of stuff that I saw come out in Gamergate felt just very reminiscent of a lot of things that I had grown up with in gaming spaces as a girl, and it was very reactionary for games becoming culturally a bit more diverse. And when that happens, just naturally there are going to be people who are going to react against that, and thus Gamergate was officially born. And there's quite a lot you can say about the specifics of that, but I was working trying to do a lot of media reporting on the harassment that was happening, because I got harassed, but to a much smaller extent than like several big names, big name women and non-binary people, specifically those who were seen as much more femme. The main target, Zoe Quinn, I believe uses they, them pronouns today, but at the time I think was only using she, her. And it was interesting experiencing that and just being like, oh, these are like a lot of the same talking points that I saw when I was a kid, except these people are older, and yeah, it's a grifter pipeline. And yeah, I know there were a lot of men who got roped into that, not realizing like that they were being taken advantage of and being duped and being like, oh, well, it's about ethics, where really it was a lot of just knee-jerk reactionary feelings from some people being like the world is scary and the world is changing, and one of the things that's changing seems to be this cultural view of what gender is and what like gender's place in society. Now people are saying gender isn't real, but clearly like I grew up a certain way and I was expected to act in these sorts of ways, and like, oh, like this, and the girls I know were raised to have all these like feminine traits and whatnot, so clearly like gender must be real. And a lot of it was like people just they weren't quite there yet and might never get there. That's really not a battle for like any one individual to try to solve, but we're just coming at this like frustration of feeling left behind in the world, and quite frankly probably were in really, really rough places of possibly not having any in-person friends, possibly were bullied themselves in school, but then taking that trauma and enacting it on other people. And I was like, this is so extra frustrating for me, because I was like, I grew up in these same nerdy spaces, because this was also back in the day when like a lot of nerdy hobbies were not seen as cool and mainstream.
Yeah, it's like the very fact that people were bullied for it that almost made it cool later.
Yeah.
So I was very curious, like, and you ended up answering like whether you were like specifically targeted for harassment. I know Gamergate like had a few specific targets that were like literally numbered on,
Yep.
There's documentation of these 4chan conversations where people who are as close as you can get to like centralized leadership of the movement are talking about like the targets of the harassment campaign, just using numbers, like dehumanizing them, like, oh, that's target number 1, that's target number 2 kind of stuff. So this was a very like clearly defined group of individuals who were directly targeted by it and got the worst of it. But I was wondering if like you specifically were getting harassment about it, and like what you could glean from that, because obviously you're not going to learn an awful lot about the people from like details about them, but you are going to learn a lot about the way they think and like what they think will hurt you.
Yeah, I mostly got insulted for my intelligence a lot, or people were like accusing me of lying and being a grifter myself, which was a lot of times when I like would see what the insults were, I was like, this feels like something you're concerned about for yourself, and it feels
this
like,
is projecting.
yeah, like, I feel like you're just like really enacting your own fears against me. It was a lot of that, which is also interesting because like I feel like when I've been sort of talked down to in the Splatoon community at times, I would say the most common insult thrown my way is like, "Oh, you just must be a casual." I was like, "This is dumb."
By the way, Pat just posted in chat that I want to make sure everyone sees the Innuendo Studios, the YouTube channel, made a good video on Gamergate, and those are some pretty thorough breakdowns of not just the actual facts of what happened, because those you can find in a lot of places, but also it's a really compelling analysis of the psychology of a gamer-gator, of like what causes someone to do that.
Yeah,
so I do recommend that if you're interested.
There are a lot of really great studio videos from.
They made a video praising Super Smash Bros. Melee, and I was on board as soon as that happened.
They just made a video.
Like, why, yes, the game is beautiful. You're correct. I like your opinions.
Called, what was it? A Guide to Flaming Out. And that one's just very much about mental health. And I was like, wow, Innuendo Studios, you getting it every time with me.
Yeah, that
would recommend.
That helped a lot with me understanding what someone is going through in that case. Like, you don't ever get to hear someone's stream of consciousness through those moments. So that was a really cool thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Gamergate, my experience with it was in the Melee community, and I've shared this in a number of videos, so I'll try and be a little more brief about it, but in Melee, there was a particular target named Milk Tea. Milk Tea was one of the first people who was known for being a woman and also playing competitive Smash, which, like, isn't a topic, isn't like a title that should exist. Yeah. Like, that's not a thing that should seem remarkable, but like, everyone was like, wait, you'll play and you're a girl? Whoa!
Yeah, I felt that.
So it was. And I don't know that she really particularly wanted to, I don't think anyone particularly wants to have to, like, stand up for themselves in that kind of a situation and, like, become the voice for those people, to become a representative for those people.
Yeah.
But it was kind of thrust upon her because of her relative notoriety compared to other women in the scene. And so she started speaking out about, like, what she was experiencing, about how sexism impacted her, and that was not received especially well in a lot of places. And she kind of became a more political figure than she had ever intended to be. It was supposed to be like, here's just what's happening to me, but it turned into, no, that's not happening to you. You're whatever you can think of as the proto version of what the word woke has become.
Yeah,
that was kind of how it became. And so you get, the word woke is so funny because of what it used to mean and what it means now.
Yeah,
so
and what?
Opposite.
Yeah, man, that's an entirely additional conversation.
Right. We'll table that for now. But so Milk Tea became a symbol, and I can actually completely shout out. And I was probably going to shout out an Innuendo Studios video off of the back of that. So I'm glad that we brought them up in the first place. They did a video called "Who is Phil Fish?" It's the story of a game developer who was known for his work on a game called Fez, which a lot of people are probably familiar with. But he kind of became a larger figure than he was in his real life. People began to know him for something instead of knowing him as a person, in the way that happens to a lot of famous people. very parasocially. It was like an early description of parasocial understandings of celebrities. And milk tea very much became a symbol in the same way for feminism in gaming communities, or at least in the Melee community.
Right.
And so what people realized they could do in Gamergate spaces was they could mock, deride, do things, say things about her, and it would imply something about what she represented. So you got a lot of this like burning by effigy, a lot of this like attacking the ideological movement by proxy with her. People would alternately make fun of her, but then like mockingly deify her. Like, oh no, she was the god queen of Melee. Like, you could not say anything wrong about her. It, like, both of which were just tactics to diminish her words, her authority, like to recontextualize everything that she was doing in the lens that these people wanted you to view it in.
Yeah.
So you'd start to see this pattern with the people who are posting there. And then this is also something I've talked about in a couple of videos by now. So I'll again try to be brief, but you'd get a lot of people bringing her up over and over and over again to the point where it's like, can we talk about literally anything else?
Yeah.
And it hurt because like she was one of the only prominent women in the community at that point. Like, there weren't that many more at that time, and that's since improved dramatically. But it's like you could name every woman who is known in the continental United States. You could just have knowledge of all of those people. It was so rare.
Yeah, definitely.
And so they became easier targets because they were the first ones.
Yeah, I'm thinking back on because I was very into Smash, and we had talked a little bit about that. I haven't played very much anymore for quite a while now. It's become just my couch game when people are over, and just like, or when I visit somebody and they're like, "Oh, hey, I have Smash. Do you want to play?" And I'm just like, "Are you sure? Like, I'm happy to play, but like, will you be happy?"
Yep. I know that conversation.
Yeah, I'm now at that stage where it's like, okay, you're very impressive to people who don't play competitively, but only them. I was like, you know what? I'll take that. Splatoon can just be the one game that I like try hard at. And then Smash, I'm just like,
Melee,
I'm coasting.
or competitive Smash in general, it's always like, if you're playing competitively, you were the best in your friend group.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that had been my experience. And as I started to get a little bit older, because I was in middle school when Melee came out, I believe, somewhere around that time. And it was one of the games that I put the most hours into on the GameCube. And I, being in middle school, didn't have a way of going to any sort of like tournament on my own. They were also much harder to find back then. And we didn't have like online things then either. So like when I got to high school and people started being like, yeah, there are like tournaments and whatnot you can do for that, I had considered it, but then like checking things out online, I saw that it was so male dominated that I just got really put off by it, just seeing that and just going, okay, if I go, I am going to not play well because I'm going to be an anxious wreck. Just sitting in the room and knowing I'm probably the only girl here. And there's this stigma that girls aren't as good at this. And if I lose, then I'm proving them right. And that is, I know that's really common for women who get into chess and want to play that very competitively, and why they feel more comfortable going to women's only tournaments for a bit. Just to work up their own confidence before they start going into the mixed gender tournaments. Because it is really stressful when you go into a room and you realize there's nobody else like you there. You're just like, oh, I am now representing this entire demographic that is seen as not the default.
Yeah. Shout out to Anna Cramling. But that was something that did not get through to a lot of boys and men, that was what the experience was like. Because even the like relative infrequency of women attending would get seen as, oh, girls just aren't into this.
Right.
Like, this is maybe like girls are trying to find a boyfriend who's really good, or they're like just coming to support a boy or something like that. And so you get a lot of like people being introduced as so-and-so's girlfriend instead of just giving their name or their tag.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was correct too, because like you didn't have to deal with that whole issue of, oh, I'm representing my whole demographic, if you really were just there to support someone.
Yeah.
You'd see a number of those people, but the like bias that would create was, oh, well, this is all I perceive, therefore this is natural. And another thing that would come along with that is that you then get some men who are excited that there are women around because they've been told their whole lives, you know, ever since they were untrained from being able to talk to girls in the first place.
Yeah. It's okay, guys. I can tell you, us girls are really bad at talking to girls too. Can confirm.
It comes around about like 7th or 8th grade that all of a sudden, like, you need to be able to talk to girls again. And now all of a sudden you get made fun of for not being able to do that, when for the rest of your life up until this point, you've been actively discouraged from learning how to do that. So it's like, what do you want of me? Anyway,
right. I'm gonna open
one
up
of the
a
things,
room, by the way, same pass and everything.
Sounds good. One of the things that you get taught is, okay, well, if you want to meet girls and potentially date someone, you should get a hobby, and you should go and do that hobby and talk to the girls who are there. And so you get that instruction, and then you find this hobby that you love, and you go out to an event for it, and there is one woman at the entire event.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, target acquired. not exactly in that sort of direct thought process, but it's like, you look at it and you're like, well, it would be really nice if this worked out this way, which is not helped by the fact that, like, all of the other guys are thinking about the same thing, and some of them are probably actually attractive. So a lot of the time you do see that one woman in the community actually ending up in a relationship in that way. But so that leads to a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration on the part of the guys when they approach this girl, and they feel like they're doing everything that they've been told to do. They're like, I'm doing it the right way. I'm doing it the respectful way. And you approach this woman, and then what you don't realize is that in her head, she feels like an alien. She feels like a unicorn. She feels like she's being looked at differently, and that she doesn't like that and wishes she could just be treated like everybody else. And so as soon as you give her any kind of individual attention, you get shot down, and now you're just frustrated because you're like, what am I supposed to do? What are my options here? I don't understand. I did everything I was told, and then I got told at every single step that everything I did has been wrong. The system is broken. Screw everything. I'm not a feminist anymore.
Yeah, some people absolutely go down that, and it's always really frustrating to see, because I'm like, your frustration is valid, and I totally understand where it is coming from, and you reached the wrong conclusion, but I understand where your frustration's coming from.
Right. Like, I feel like it would be easier in some cases if they were just like, I don't know why I put this here. If they were just
All for Debbie.
awful people, but like the fact that they are not, and yet they are still bringing about harm, almost makes it feel harder to do something about, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like, I've just summarized like a decade of learning for a lot of men. Like, it takes us a long time to get through that sequence of like attempts, trial and error, because like nobody talks about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Nobody
true.
wants to. Nobody who's been through it wants to talk about a time where they thought like that.
Yeah.
Because it's embarrassing.
I am not the right space for this because I don't know if people know, but I'm not a man. But I wish there were more spaces for men to actually talk about like the frustrations that do come from, you know, being a boy, you know, just being a man and being like, I feel like I don't know how to talk to girls in these spaces because every time I try I get shut down and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be doing. I thought I was being respectful, but I like made somebody really uncomfortable, and now I feel like I'm a really bad person because of this. And those are like really scary feelings to have and process. And I think a lot of times, just like for a lot of us women, we're like, I'm trying to be understanding, but I've also gone through a lot of my own trauma being on the receiving end of this sort of behavior, and so I'm probably not the best person to talk to about this. And I would love for there to be more male spaces where men are like very comfortable working through those sorts of feelings without being judged, and just like by the nature of it, that's not going to be every single space.
Right. It seems, it reminds me a lot of how trans people feel about having to explain their identities to people, about how like they're, on one hand, they desperately want people to understand, but on the other hand, there are resources that are available that people could be using that they're not, and being called on to explain yourself every single time is emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, it's not work that anyone wants to have to do. So you end up with people who are trying to engage in good faith, but who feel like they're getting shut down because asking legitimate questions is being treated like you're being exhausting, you're being insensitive. So that feels like the same kind of situation that happens here.
I think so, yeah. Because for a lot of us, like, you know, on my side, you know, I had a time where I was out at a club with my boyfriend, who later, you know, went on to be my spouse, and I had told him so many times that, like, and he'd even started witnessing it at like anime conventions when we would go to like the late night dance, and I was like, yeah, like, I'm happy to attend these, but I've just had a lot of bad experiences with like guys at these. And then when he started going to these things with me, and he started seeing it for himself, he was like, oh my gosh, you weren't kidding. I had no idea how bad it was until I like saw it. Because he was like, what? Why would people do that? That's crazy. That's so gross. And I was just like, I was like, I'm really frustrated with you, but like, I know it's just because you don't understand. And then he saw it for himself, where like a guy kept trying to dance with me, and I kept telling him no. And at one point he actually put his hands on me, and my spouse like actually like stepped between us and was like, dude, you have to go. And the guy, once he saw that I had gone there with a man, he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, dude. But like never apologized to me.
Apologizing to the dude, yeah.
Yeah. And my spouse was just like, I do not have the time to explain how messed up that is. And I was like, I do not have the energy to explain how messed up this is.
I love what someone just said in chat. The trans experience is like living as the Hulk. Acknowledge that we exist, but don't be mean to us.
Yeah. Like, just be chill. Just be nice, please. Yeah, and I like Pat's comment about feeling like a big misconception that men have is that, taught that sexism is a thing that mean people do because they hate women. And then I'm just like, yeah, there's like one fallacy I always hate seeing that applies to so many different things. Where all of the isms, where it's like, yes, we should be calling out those isms and that behavior and the language that's being used. It's very, very important to strike that down, especially if it's like a friend of yours who says it. They are so much more likely to listen to you than to like somebody they're demonizing on the internet. But if we start treating people and just making the culture feel like if you do this thing, then you are bad person, then it starts to change the conversation into, oh, well, sexists are bad people. And I'm not a bad person, so I'm not sexist. And I'm like, no, right. We're all capable of these things. I had so much internalized sexism as a kid. I had so many messed up ideas about girls, and I was so judgmental of clothes that girls would wear. I was like, man, if in an alternate timeline, I absolutely would have been one of those, oh, I'm not like the other girls, because I just had so much of that like internalized stuff that I grew up with, and was a big reason why I was like, well, I guess I'm a boy because why would I ever want to be a girl? And I had to work through a lot of that. So like, everybody is capable of these thoughts because they're things that really get instilled in us as kids, and it's not your fault that you are growing up, and as we all say, we live in a society. But it's really important to start unworking things that are harmful that have been taught to you from a young age.
And I want to talk about that a little bit more explicitly, because this is something that I think is a sticking point for a lot of people early on in unpacking this subject matter. I think back to where was it I got this? There's a picture, a really famous picture that's in a bunch of history books of a woman named Hazel Bryan. It's a picture, you might not know her name, but you have probably seen this picture of a white high schooler yelling at a black high schooler as she walks into school. It is a picture of scorn, of anger, of hatred that is very enduring in the mind when you see it. And that is what everyone thinks the isms are by default. Like, nobody learns initially from like the education that we've gotten about them that they are any more than like this virulent hatred towards another person, that it's like something you would shout slurs at someone over.
Right.
When a lot of the time it's little assumptions you didn't even realize you had. A lot of the time it's like thinking, you drive through a certain neighborhood and you lock your car doors, and maybe it's just because it's something that your parents did and you didn't even think twice about it, but they were like, oh yeah, it's the city, a lot more crime happens here, or something like that. And you don't even think about how that might be specifically instilled by thoughts about race, as opposed to any of the other justifications we give to it. It's like not even realizing that that thing you do is about race until somebody who is that race makes you aware that like that's not the way that they see the world, or that that's not the way they behave. So it's like there's overt sexism, this guy who's trying to put hands on you, who's only listening once a male person intervenes. And even then, it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to touch your stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's more like, oh, I didn't know girls played video games. Like, that's not even inherently, like, hateful, but it's also reinforcing this idea of inferiority when you really sit down and think about what it implies
Yeah.
to think that way.
Yeah, there's like a
and
lot
so
of microaggressions that are
right, and that's the word for it, and that's
yeah, the
that's
things
kind of
that-
what I'm building up to defining here.
yeah, and that's the more common thing that I would say, especially in the Splatoon community. Not to, say that like there are not like the big capital S sexism things, having happened. We've had plenty of people come forward with stories about like really terrible things that have happened to them. But I would say, at least in my experience and most people I've talked to, a lot of it are these microaggressions, which are almost harder to deal with because they're often seen as not a big deal because like, yeah, they're not as serious. And a lot of it is just the culture that we live in. Roa and I spoke about our experience joining like voice calls, and I would say this probably goes more for like sendo queue, where you might be queuing up with people you don't already know, and how people will sometimes make a judgment of who you are and your skill level based on your voice. And Roa had been talking about how absolutely they've experienced times where their voices sounded a little bit more mask, and they've felt like they've been getting treated more seriously as opposed to when they sound more femme. And I was like, yeah, all my life playing video games, I feel like it's always been, oh, people don't treat me seriously because they're like, oh, your name is Rosa Battle and you sound very femme and you like pink, so you must not be seriously into games.
Yeah. And like, so shoot, there was something I was gonna say, and I'm trying to remember now. I'm blanking. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm gonna go die putting this clam over here.
Yeah, sounds good. Godspeed, soldier.
Sometimes you just gotta
man.
07.
We almost got there.
Nearly.
Yeah, it happens a lot, especially to commentators. Because that's, if a woman is winning in a video game, you have to respect that she's winning. Like, it's right there on the screen, like, she beat you. There's any number of different excuses that you can come up with for that, but at the end of the day, if she's regularly placing in a certain way, there's not that much that you can say about it. She's proving the haters wrong. But if she's on commentary, that's subjective. Whether people enjoy her commentary or not just comes down to whether they enjoy it. And so that gives a lot more plausible deniability for people to vent these things intentionally. And it's very easy for just a very few people, and this is Gamergate tactics. It's very easy for a very small amount of people doing sexism deliberately to convince people who are only, playing out microaggressions, who aren't actually hateful towards women. They don't understand that what they're doing is perpetuating something. It's very easy to convince those people to act in the same way as the overt sexists and camouflage that behavior.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of really good points on that in the plausible deniability video. It's like those sorts of
You
dog
watch
whistles.
my videos?
Yeah. There's so many like methods of, whether it be a dog whistle or just a lot of those microaggressions. For some people, like, they know that is something they can get away with. For other people, like, they might genuinely not realize. I definitely get a fair amount of attention at LANs and whatnot. And other members of Malibu, so that, for anybody who does not know, that's my team, Malibu Rising. And we're all femme. We're all, like, women and non-binary femmes. And we've been getting a lot more popular over the last year as we've been getting better and improving, just been like more visible in general online and at the New York City events. And we really appreciate that, like, people have been really excited to like talk with us and chat and whatnot. So, like, yes, please come. If you see us at like Riptide or something, you're welcome to come up and say hi. But we've also felt like people will take advantage of us trying to be nice and approachable, and especially being more feminine, that like sometimes we're just like, okay, we need a break. Like, we need people to like chill, and like they've been like really, this one person's been monopolizing our time and been talking to us a lot when we would love to be like chatting with other people who are good friends. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to say hi to my friends who I never get to see. And I appreciate the really nice people who come up and say hi, but sometimes it's like, okay, you're being really nice and you don't realize that this is probably a problem, but I don't know how to nicely tell you to go away and not offend you. Because it is a lot harder and a lot scarier, I think, as women to be able to like reject guys. And I know that it is like a genuine concern, and a genuine frustration a lot of guys have, is like, why can't women just be honest and like tell me when they want me to go away? And I get that, because like ghosting is really frustrating to deal with, and it's really frustrating when you're like, well, I don't know what I did wrong and they won't tell me. And I get that. That's a valid frustration. But I think for a lot of us, yeah, and just for like a lot of us on the other end, when we're like receiving that attention, we never really know when it's gonna turn bad. And probably most of the time it's not, but a lot of us have already lived experiences where like we did actually tell a guy no, and he got really like verbally aggressive about it. So then it's like, okay, well, I don't want to deal with that, so maybe instead I'm gonna try to like get out of this without hurting his feelings. But how can I very delicately handle that while also getting him to leave me alone for a bit? It's a rough situation for all of us out here.
Right. Yeah, it's like, sure, it's frustrating for us when we don't get that feedback, but when it's dangerous for somebody else to potentially give that feedback, like we have to, I think we just like don't understand how bad it gets, because we're not like, why would someone who's a guy share a story about when they behaved that way toward a woman?
Right, yeah.
Like, we're not finding out that that's happening. We're not a woman that it would happen to. If you're not a guy who does it, then you wouldn't know. So like, how are we going to know those stories? That's the power of like someone who's experienced that, someone who's been through it, someone who's been a victim of it, actually telling that story out loud, because then the guy gets to be like, oh, wow, I did not know that happened ever. I did not know. And like, then to hear other people speak up and say, oh, that's common.
Yeah.
That is one of the most powerful things for getting the ones who don't understand on board. Just, they need to hear those stories so badly. And that's part of why I love that interview series.
Yeah. I mean, like, my husband, genuinely, like, you know, clueless, very nice man, but clueless when we first started dating. Was like, oh, I didn't know that those were things that were like common. Then he started seeing it happen in front of him, and he was like, holy hell, this is crazy. I can't believe that's happening.
Are we winning? Okay, we're winning.
We are. You just gotta play defense. Even though I want to score this.
I just had a lull, because I'm just like kind of doing zap things. I'm like, I'm gonna just play Slayer until I get cooler and throw it at people, and then keep doing that.
Yeah.
But, oh, cool! I got something. I think we win the game here.
Teehee.
Boink.
Yay!
As I said, boink is the sound of progress.
Boink! That's when we win. Oh, actually, I think the idea of like public libraries having little focus groups is actually a really cool idea, and I think a lot of the change will come from local communities. I used to do assistant teaching as like a part-time job for an after-school program when my senior year of college. We just had like a nearby preschool and after-school program, and so I would go there a couple times a week after my classes. And then I helped teach some of the pre-K back in that summer before I moved away from my my college town, and I had a lot of really good conversations led by kids there. Like, I usually was not the person to bring it up, but there was like those kids were really like, they would ask me like, why do you have short hair? And I was like, I just like short hair. Like, some girls wear short hair. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. And they started questioning more gender stuff. They one time like mentioned that they were like, oh yeah, he has a boyfriend, because like some guys also like guys, and they were all really chill about it. And I think a lot of that was because where I went to college happened to be a pretty progressive town where those sorts of things were really commonly taught to kids. But it just like showed me that I was like, yeah, a lot of the really hateful ideologies, like, nobody's born with those sorts of things. They're taught to you, which also means they can be, you know, unlearned and replaced with other things that we teach kids. And you know, if they have good role models and conversations being led in ways that are also just in general encouraging them to think about the world, and often just like use critical thinking skills, being like, oh well, yeah, like, why do I think that way? And they're just good skills for everybody, and I would also love for that to be taught at a young age.
Yeah, one thing that I've thought for a long time is that we need more logic classes, like even just something like discrete math or something like that. I think that is more important than a lot of the math that we teach people, because of how critical it is for forming a foundation of critical thinking. Like, we need to bring proofs back. That needs to be a part of like everyone's math
That was
curriculum.
my least favorite part of 8th grade math.
Because it's the most challenging part, but it's
Yeah.
like, it's challenging you in the way that you need to become a better person. So like, the teachers will hate it, the students will hate it, and it'll be a slog, but it will result in a better society.
Yeah, proofs were rough, but like, yeah, a lot of it was like, okay, well, you know, show your thinking. We're working through things. And just, man, those are just skills that we don't get. We're not teaching them nearly as much. You would know more about the state of teaching nowadays than I do, because I have been not involved with school at all in many, many years, but I do often worry that a lot of the things that get instilled in kids do happen in schools, and sometimes unintentionally by teachers, because, you know, your teachers also have biases, because that happens to all of us. There are things that, you know, you believe that you know, we're just grown up learning and whatnot. And I had a lot of really amazing elementary school teachers, but I think, like, as I was thinking back on it the past couple of months, I was really blown away by how I was like, yeah, now that I think about it, I think a lot of the things I got complimented on when I was very young in these classes by my teachers was that I was just really nice. They were like, you're so nice and agreeable and you get along with everybody. And there was never anything really about like, oh, you're willing to like reason things out and you're not afraid to be different. And it was just like, you're really nice.
Okay, like a replacement. Yeah, thinking back to like my problem with like people thinking I had a crush, like the adults in the room were not immune to commenting on things like that. Like, I think that's something like, as parenting advice, as advice for caretakers of children, like, definitely don't give that kind of attention to a kid.
Yeah.
Unless it's intentionally to discourage a harmful behavior or something, because like that did really genuinely inhibit my understanding of women. As silly and as banal as it sounds, like that was one of the more harmful things that ever got conditioned into me. So I think that that's something that needs to be said.
Yeah, let's not make things harder for kids. The world is confusing enough as it is.
Yeah. Another big one for me, because there are times that that sort of conversation can get brought up in like an English class, but like it has to be an English teacher who's not just going to compliment every paper that's given to them. There needs to be like a little bit of pushback on some of the things that aren't going right. And I definitely... it's complicated. And now we're getting into pedagogy, so I don't know how relevant that's going to be. But there's kind of a movement culturally in education of like trying to weed out our biases, and in doing so, we're becoming less picky about the ways that people write and read and things and spell.
Okay.
Spelling is a big issue right now because we've just taken it out of the curriculum altogether. You and I will remember having spelling tests in school.
Yeah.
That's just not even a thing.
Wow.
And a lot of it is that kids are relying on spell checkers or AI for those corrections, and so they're not internalizing them. But some of it is also just we're de-emphasizing it because people are saying, well, wait, why are we docking them for spelling errors if that doesn't impact someone's understanding of the text? Like, this is very prescriptivist of us. Let's be descriptivist instead. I have no idea if you know what those two words mean.
Oh, I do, yes.
Okay, cool.
Man.
All right, you were a journalist. Obviously, you would know that.
I was like, man, that's so interesting. I have such strong opinions about spelling. Because I'm like,
and it's like,
it needs to be understood.
What resulted from that, though, is I'm getting these papers back, and I'm like, I cannot tell what you are trying to say because your syntax is all wrong. And normally, if your syntax is all wrong, I can at least look at the words you put down and figure out what order they were supposed to be in or what conjugations they were supposed to have. But if they're spelled so wrong that I actually can't figure out which word you're trying to say, now I'm lost and I actually can't tell what they're writing.
Yeah.
So that was something that kind of swung way too far in that direction and needs to get reined in a little bit. Like, I'm a descriptivist, but part of that is recognizing what people are saying and why. And part of the reason that people should say things a certain way is so that they will be coherent, so that they will be understood. Yep. It's pointless what you say if it's not understood by the audience. There needs to be some common ground, and spelling is part of that common ground that is generally agreed upon.
Yeah, I've gone from journalism to working in publishing, so still very much words, and yeah, I do edit. And I edit Japanese to English translations, and so I'm often like speaking with the translator sometimes where I'm like, I can't quite tell what you were saying here. The syntax is just a little confusing, and I have guesses, and these are my guesses. And this is like my understanding based on reading the text in Japanese, but like, you are the translator, you get to be the one making the words, so please like let me know what you meant so I know how to revise it to be in line with what you were trying to say.
Oh, that was so clutch. I don't know who saw that I had 7 clams, because I didn't want to interrupt, but I also really needed one clam to get thrown at me.
But our teammates.
I would not be surprised if it was Debbie, because
Debbie.
Yeah, she knows things, but...
Beautiful Debbie.
But yeah, God. So, escapist.
Yes.
You must have thoughts about the second wind stuff.
Some. I've read some stuff and been like just a little. I've paid attention a little bit to like stuff that's been going on. And I know, like,
and if it's not something you're at liberty to comment on, obviously, no pressure.
Yeah,
just,
a lot of it.
I will again eat up everything that you have to say about that because I'm still curious.
Yeah, I should DM you more about like stuff that went on there, because it was a nuts time to be there. It has changed hands so many times now, so I'm like, oh god, I have no idea what's happening there anymore. It is such a different crew of people. I don't think anybody I know is still there. I mean, Yahtzee's still there, but I didn't know Yahtzee. Yahtzee was the one who was essentially paying all of our bills.
Right, that's what I think the general consensus has been publicly, so I'm glad that was actually true.
It's so true. Anything I wrote was
zero
never...
punctuation was a core part of my YouTube experience for a while.
Yeah, I loved zero punctuation back in the day. I was like, oh man, I get to go ride at the Escapist. Yeah,
it's been so interesting watching him change as a creator now that he's older, now that he's married, now that he has a kid, seeing his personality change from the edgy 20-year-old to where he's at. Oh my god, that was a lot of dopamine. Okay. But sorry, you have more things to say and I want to hear all of them.
I'm trying to figure out what else there was about the Escapist that I was going to say. Oh, my very first big kid Escapist assignment was E3 2014, and y'all might remember that is when Splatoon got revealed, and so I was just like, oh my gosh, I was just sitting there and watching the direct because that was also by that time Nintendo was just doing Nintendo Directs instead of the
actual thing that E3 was made as. Yeah,
because E3 was
everyone was a little disappointed, but also I think it deserved to get cut off at a certain point. It was not the show that it used to be.
Yeah, it did. It changed a lot even by the time I was there in 2014. It was so cool being there, and I was just watching the direct with a bunch of other journalists, and then I got to see, I was like, oh, what's this game? And I was like, oh, I really like this game from what I'm seeing. They can take that, that's fine. And I wasn't one of the ones, the Escapists, who got to play Splatoon there, but I did get to watch them play it. I was previewing several other games, including Hot of a Boyfriend, the pigeon dating simulator, which I was like, I've already played this game. It's getting an official release. I already know everything. That's fantastic. But yeah, that was such a cool experience. Or now I'm like, yeah, you babies, and you're like, oh my gosh, I was too young to play Splatoon 1. And then I'm like, I will just wither into dust right now because I was there working at E3 when it got announced.
Do not speak the deep magic to me. I was there when it was written.
I was there.
Yeah, but so I got to go to E3 one time, and was it E3? I'm pretty sure it was E3. And it was because they were doing the preview of Smash Ultimate there. At the time, I was working for Bravest Esports, which those who are old heads will remember is the old name of this channel. And at the time, we were trying to do youth leagues for various Nintendo titles, specifically Nintendo, because Switches were easier to fly around in Pelican cases. They just much lower form factor means we can bring more of them on a plane. We could literally take 2 people, and between the luggage that they were allotted on Southwest Airlines 2 free bag rule, which rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Using that, we were able to bring enough setups to have 10 consoles, all with GameCube controllers, and just run an entire Smash tournament at a college or something. And so that was the kind of stuff we were doing for events. Well, it comes out that Smash Ultimate is on the horizon, and we wanted to kind of get a sense of whether we could form a business model around that and what we were going to be able to do with it. So my boss actually like flied me out. I was able to play the demo build in the like press area. Hungrybox was there. I played one round against Hungrybox, and instead of playing normally, he went Kirby and Kirby sided, and I will never forgive him for this. He was also kind of trying to chat up an attractive like Nintendo like sales rep or something there the whole time that we were playing. I was like, dude, I'm right here. I already knew who you were before we got here. Can we? anyway, so I remember being surprised at how much waiting in line there was. Like, it was very much like an amusement park where you spend much of your time not actually doing anything, but standing and waiting to do the things that are set up for you to do. Which is why I don't like theme parks.
Yeah, that's
it's
valid.
not that I don't like roller coasters. They're sick. It's the fact that I get to ride one every 90 minutes for 40 seconds. That's the part I don't like about it, and that was kind of the experience of those trade shows. So, like,
yeah, it was.
For those of you who, like me, grew up watching, like, G4 TV coverage on it, and being like, oh my god, this looks like heaven. Trust me, you are seeing all of the highlights on TV in, like, 15 minutes, and that's all there is in the show.
Yep.
But yeah, that's such a cool connection that I didn't know I had to someone who was that close to Gamergate, was that close to actual games journalism. So at The Escapist, like, what was the response to Gamergate there? Like, what happened as a result of Gamergate?
So several of us who were working there on the news side were very, very against it. We were pretty vocally like, this is not about ethics in games journalism. This is a harassment campaign. And we had a lot of discussions of like, okay, well, like, I mean, revisiting ethics discussions is just always a good thing to do. But if we do it now, are we just capitulating and like really adding credence to this really, you know, actual false thing that they're arguing? Are we going to make that seem more credible? And a lot of organizations ended up being pretty public about revisiting their standards of ethics. I know Polygon was one of them who did that. And I felt such like multiple ways about it, because I definitely felt like there were some things that I did not agree with from ethical standpoints. Like, we get so much free stuff at E3, and I was like, this feels weird, because I was definitely taught in journalism school that, like, this is not okay to accept. I was definitely taught, like, you don't get to accept any gifts. Like, anything that's, like, given to you for free, you don't get to keep. If you do keep it, it has to be, like, for the company, and it's something you, like, give away to, like, readers or something. It's nothing that you keep for yourself ever. So it was really weird seeing how many things got handed to journalists. I was like, oh my god, how many free drinks they were giving me at 11 a.m. And I was like, I'm working. I can't get drunk. It's 11 a.m. I got a long day. And so there were like legitimate things where I was like, yes, I do think we have some ethics issues that we need to address and we need to fix. But like, this feels like...
And those were not them.
Yeah, I was just like, this is so obviously not what's happening.
Okay, but these are the corporate ethics problems. We're worried about the woman ethics problems.
Right? It was so frustrating. But we did, at one point, realize that we were getting a lot of people coming into our comment sections that were really explicitly pro Gamergate. And I brought it up with our publisher, who was Alexander McCree at the time, who is my boss, who then, after The Escapist, went on to work for Milo Yiannopoulos, who's that person over on the far right. And so I emailed him with my concerns of being like, hey, I'm noticing that whenever, you know, and I'm writing on the news and like, there's a major current event happening of several people who are women or femme getting pretty like obviously harassed. So yeah, I'm going to write about what's happening, and in my mind I'm being entirely objective by like being like, no, this is not about ethics in games journalism, this is a harassment campaign. And when I mentioned the harassment that was getting sent to me in comments and to my DMs, because on the Escapist, I don't know if you remember, every news article and feature sort of got treated like there would be actual news and feature sections, but if you were to reply to them as a comment for a reader, it would show up in the forums. And so we would get like these forums comments about, I would get harassed in them, and then I would also get harassed over DMs, because it was still also very much just like the Escapist was many things, and one of them was a forum. And so when I brought that up to Alex, like, hey, I'm getting harassed, like, what's happening here? And I noticed it was when he had made a post really being like, oh yeah, we welcome people of all, you know, diverse viewpoints. Anytime I hear that now, I'm like, do you though?
Yeah, diversity and then diverse viewpoints are two very different terms.
They're very different. Oh, talk about a euphemism. And so I brought up, I was like, I think this is a direct result of you encouraging, you know, the people who are being very vocally in favor of Gamergate. And I think you should know that, like, all of your femme writers are getting harassed pretty heavily, as are the male writers and male editors who have been pretty vocal on social media about how this is a harassment campaign. And so he replied to me and told me that I should be willing to listen to people who have different viewpoints. And I was like, well, okay, I'm screwed. And a lot of us had that frustration of, okay, the person who is our top boss is clearly very pro Gamergate, and he is not going to listen to us when we talk about how his own, you know, employees and contractors are being harassed. And he made an article by himself. He had never been this involved in the Escapist before. He wrote his own article to be his viewpoint for, you know, why we should listen to people who are pro Gamergate. And then a bunch of us were like, okay, but like my name's all over this website and I don't want to be seen as being okay with this. So we...
Hey, so could you consider some of our diverse viewpoints, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. And so we ended up...
I think you need to be more open to my diverse viewpoints instead.
We ended up banding together to write our own article. It was just like, you know, from the... I think we credited it as like the Escapist editorial staff, to be separate. And that almost did not get published. Like, he fought us on it, the publisher, and very much did not. He was like, no, this is absurd. You guys have to be objective. And we were like, we're being objective. We're stating what's happening. It was a very frustrating time. I ended up quitting by the following January. And so this...
Is that related to this?
Gamergate got really, really, like, officially big. I think it was August of 2014. And then I quit January 2015. And I kid you not, the same day that I quit, coincidentally, he fired, like, most of the staff.
Wow.
And it was almost entirely people who had been very vocal about how we were against Gamergate. I was just like, I signed off the day and I was like, bye guys, it was a pleasure working with you. I hope our paths cross again someday. And I signed off of Slack. And then a couple hours later, all of a sudden I see that everybody's been fired. And I was like, what?
Was not expecting to see you again someday so soon.
It was a time.
Wow. Do I get there in time? Let's see.
I believe.
All right.
Now,
If
do
you
you survive?
Okay, I'm dead. Oh, but the jump make it. Oh no, the jump didn't make it. Good try. Good try.
Eh. We still.
I'm glad
got
that somebody
one.
else says that when making an attempt.
Oh, all these clams for me. No, not the crab.
No, there's one clam.
Oh,
Oh,
the one clam.
that's insane. We do only need one power clam to win. Oh wait, we don't have a power clam. Okay, well, we go next.
GG, go next. So close. Oh, but yeah, so what were your experiences being into like games and whatnot as a kid growing up, who I assume everybody was just like, okay, you're a boy, these are things that like boys enjoy? Was it just sort of like a people don't think twice about it?
Yeah, so there was a friend circle in the neighborhood and a friend circle at school. And I didn't initially play a lot of video games. My mom was very cautious about getting me into too much of it. Like, she'd been reading up on how bad screen time was for kids, because there are all these studies about how little TV they should be watching.
My mom too.
And I'm sure that's still a thing. Like, it should only be a thing more so these days. But anyway, so there were a lot of things that were popular that kind of got thrust upon my parents instead of my parents getting them for me, because they thought, oh, this is a good and enriching way for him to live his life. It was like, someone handed me a Game Boy with Pokemon. I literally could not read. I did not know what the words were that I was selecting on that screen. So they just handed it to me, said, this is Pikachu. Thunderbolt is a really good move. Just keep pressing A. It's its first move, and you'll win. And I did that, and I loved it.
You know, my
that is
sister
how I got
learned how to read so she could play Pokemon Yellow.
Yeah, there you go. And then that was just like at one kid's house, but it was like, I'd go over to their house, they'd have the thing, and I'd become addicted to it. Like, I wanted to be at that kid's house because they had that thing. And there were enough of them that had it that I could kind of get my fix consistently without necessarily having one of my own. But then when I finally did get one of my own for Christmas one year, it was off to the races, because now it was like the demand for it had been established. And so now that I had this unfettered supply, I was gonna go nuts. So it was a very social thing. Like, when I didn't have a system, what would happen is I would pressure some kid whose shoulder I was watching over to let me play one time. And there were kids who really wanted to make friends and didn't really know how to do it, and so they would just acquiesce to letting everyone play their system. And so I was able to play a lot from that too. But it was a very social thing, like I said. It was something that like the whole group would get into, and like it would be a way that the guys would all compete with each other, and very much the way that there's someone behind us. In very much the way that they would like compete in sports with each other too. Like, if you quietly wanted to be better than all of your friends at Smash, the way that you wanted to be better than them at football or whatever else. Everything was a competition. Everything. There are a lot of things to criticize Jordan Peterson for, but one of the things that actually really rang true for me was the concept of male social circles being, quote, dominance hierarchies. That like the people who talk the smoothest become the leaders, the people who play games the best get to show off in that realm, and that gives them an identity. And it's like all based on how well you're able to do in those things. And so I think in retrospect, like part of the reason that it felt so much like a boy thing was that that's not the way that anyone interacted with girls. They didn't try to be better than the girl. The girls had their own separate sports leagues.
Yeah.
So like, why would you compare yourself to the girl soccer players? Which oddly enough, we did do actually, because in elementary school we would always play boys versus girls soccer, and the boys always won. But that was partly because there were twice as many boys on the boys team as there were girls on the girls team. And I remember like from being one of the boys who is a little bit better at soccer, I remember gaining this kind of begrudging respect for like some of the girls who were like on travel teams and really knew what the hell they were doing, and recognizing like, okay, we're not beating them because we're better than these girls. Like, sure, I'm a little bit faster than she is, but like she can handle the ball way more accurately than I can. And she's stealing it a lot of the time when I try to go past her. Like, I have to respect this. And like having to compete against them like that was an oddly good experience for figuring all of that out for myself. But anyway, it was like very separate spaces when we would play video games versus when we would interact with girls. And I think that's part of what caused that whole business. But then like one day in class, I find out that this girl sitting next to me in the second grade also plays Luigi's Mansion. And we're both going through it at the same time. And every day when we came into class, I would check up with her on like what progress she had made in the game. And I'd tell her like what I'd found out and what puzzle I'd solved. And like we'd trade information in very much the way that you always did. I miss that about video games, by the way. Like now that the internet has guides on everything, you don't have to talk to people. There's not that like social interdependence. That was the way that people beat Dark Souls, right? That was the way that anyone ever figured out how the hell to unlock the DLC of that game, because it was... Oh my god, we need to stop this brush.
Yeah, man.
The social interdependence in this game is breaking down. The brush is playing. Anyway, so it was like... I could have that relationship with her, but it was in class, and that was a time when I interacted with girls. I never went over to her house. I mean, part of it was that I just, like, that was basically the only thing we ever had in common. We didn't really talk that much. We were cool with each other. We just, like, weren't that close.
Yeah.
But also, like, that was how I interacted with her then, and that never translated into going over to each other's houses. Like, when it was going over to someone's house, well, I did that with the guys in the neighborhood. I did that with the guys from class, who all played video games together and all, had the same hobbies because we all got into them together at the same time.
Right.
And since those were so segregated, the concept of a girl being a part of it became foreign because it just wasn't something that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, all of my friends were boys when I was young. And that only changed when, by the time getting to middle school, then people were like, oh, well, clearly you like this guy you keep hanging out with. And I was like, we literally have just been in class together since like kindergarten, and we like all the same things. We both like soccer and video games, and I've been to his house a bunch of times. And then we like stopped hanging out, and that was kind of sad because like we were really good friends, and we just sort of like felt pushed apart. And now we follow each other on Instagram. That was exactly what happened to me in preschool, yeah. Yeah, now we like still keep up very occasionally on Instagram and see what, is going on for each other and whatnot. And he's a teacher, and I'm like, that's super awesome. You seem cool. I'm glad that we still talk. And I did not have many relationships that were like in like nerdy spaces with girls, I think, until I got into anime and manga, where all of a sudden I started seeing a lot of girls were into that. And there just like was a lot less of that in games. And we talked a little bit earlier about some of that was due to advertising and marketing, and just when you really push all the ad dollars into okay, this one demographic likes this thing, then I don't think people should be too surprised when a different demographic doesn't like get into it, because it's just not being put in front of them nearly as often. That was the same problem with a lot of STEM things, where like it was like, oh, well, like, why are girls not getting into this? And it was like, well, it's not being shown to girls at young ages.
I already fed him, it's fine.
And it was also like, okay, well, like, girls are being told that they're just naturally not as good at this, so like, why would they get into it if they're being told that they're going to naturally not be as good? It's self-defeating. And sometimes I also wonder, and this is like, I definitely don't want to get like a gender essentialist and be like, oh, boys are always naturally more competitive, because like things are more complex than that. But I do think a lot of boys are socialized to be more competitive at a young age, more so than girls are, where a lot of us were sort of socialized to get along and play nice. And was that your experience growing up, that like it was more common for guys to like just be super competitive?
Yes, like everything, all socializing was structured around competition. Even when it was like more creative play, like you're playing pretend with action figures, and like you would be having them have battles, and everyone would be trying to get their side to win in the battle, or like come up with the coolest way for it to go and try to like enforce their will upon the situation instead of the other person. And I think I'm glad that you brought this up, because this is something, and it might be that you brought it up because it was, you know, on the list of topics that I said I was interested in, and you're remembering one of those. But
maybe deep in the recesses of my memory, because I did not remember that.
Because part of what I think is that while the divide between who plays video games is much smaller than that advertising would have had us think, I do think that because of our socialization, that men and women tend to engage in video games differently.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is that like there's that competitiveness that's instilled in men, where everything needs to be about beating someone. You gotta pwn the noobs. You've gotta show them that you're better than them. Like, you've gotta shut them up for being haters. And like, that is going to cause you to play in a different way, because your objectives are different. Like, obviously, there's winning the game, but you want to win the game in a way that's not seen as lame, or as was often actually said, gay. Like,
yeah, that was
people
a very
use
common
gay pejoratively as a way of describing a tactic they found cheap, boring, not fun to watch.
Yeah,
and
when I played Link and I would spam arrows, absolutely, that was what people would say.
Which, like, it makes a lot of... It literally only makes sense to me now that we're having this exact conversation, why that made sense in anybody's head ever. Like, I thought it was just like, oh, people think gay bad, therefore bad. No, but it's like, it's not as seen as masculine to not compete in that particular way that like shows off you as the lone wolf super gamer. You know, the G Fuel blooded beasts of the FaZe Clan montages.
Right.
Like, you were supposed to perform in that way. That was what was expected of you as a competitive gamer. And I think women did not ever get that sort of expectation thrust upon them. So a lot of the time they approach games in ways that are more methodical and less hot-headed. They find what's the easiest strategy to win with, instead of finding what's the strategy that makes me look the coolest to win with. And I think that, like, this is even just now in this conversation, because that was not a thought that I had until just a few minutes ago. But I think that that might genuinely be the reason that that specifically became a pejorative term for it, that was what men were expected to play like.
Yeah, there was, because especially then, like, there was this connotation that being gay was inherently like more feminine, and that was a part of the reason why it was like so bad for you to be gay. It was like, oh, well, like that's Like, you know, they're all girly. And it's like so many things just came down to being like feminine bad.
Yeah, it's like, don't be a girl because you could be a man.
Be a manly man.
I remember all these advertisements for toys that were meant to be gross, and like they would advertise them by showing a boy doing the gross thing in front of a girl to try and like freak her out, and like, yeah, this toy is for boys, not for girls. Godspeed, Debbie. Okay, she did her best.
If my coach sees this, you didn't see me drop when I shouldn't have. You didn't see it.
Lots of guys spam arrows as Link, though. Is that not why guys called each other gay? Another way of calling them effeminate? That's what we're saying. That, like, to call strategy gay in that way was to call it, like, unmanly. Like, you're not fighting fair.
Yeah.
You're not expressing
really
masculinity in the way that you're supposed to.
When people would be like, oh, God, Rose, stop spamming arrows as Link and come fight me. And I'd be like, make me. Like, make me stop. Like, you could come over here.
And I will always love the Arizona Melee community for the way that they perceived that. Like, there were one of the best players in our region was a very flamboyantly gay guy. He called himself Silly Kyle. That was his tag.
Awesome.
And he was really, really freaking good. He's still insanely good at the game. Like, God, that was a really fun Peach to watch. And so there was this whole thing in gaming culture of calling the annoying strategy gay.
Yep.
And so what they did was they started calling Kyle flamboyantly efficient. He started saying, like, he would like make some like flirty look at a guy and they'd be like, oh my God, stop being so efficient.
That is fantastic. I really love when people take those sorts of things and like completely turn them around on their head.
Yeah, like it was, and that's another thing about the way that like gender expression kind of happens in gaming, because all of the best Peach players in the world for a long time were gay men.
Yeah.
That was like a known pattern right up until Armada, and Armada is just a god and nobody dared call him anything for any reason. Like he's kind of the great equalizer. Like, gender roles, nah, don't apply to him. He's too good. Who cares? Anyway, so like that was kind of a known thing, and it got me thinking, because there was a survey that went out at one point discussing specifically sexism in gaming by someone who was a friend of mine at the time, and they got back results of like, what characters do people play? Because there was this whole idea, oh, girls only play Peach, and part of the idea was to try and offset that narrative and show a little more diversity. But it was actually like 39% or something of respondents all played Peach, which is statistically pretty unlikely, even in a game with as, you know, strict a meta as Melee is. Like, Peach is not the best character. So one of the other things that I think is very gendered in the way that people play video games is that guys play for competitive advantage, and so they don't care if they play a female character. I mean, sometimes they'll play it because they think that female character is hot, but I'm sure that goes both ways.
Yeah.
But what they will definitely do is play whatever character they think gives them an advantage. That's kind of why they're selecting. That's just what they feel like is the natural, obvious reason to play something, is that we should play this because we're going to win with it. And I think a lot of women, because they don't get that socializing to be so hyper competitive, sometimes they'll make a decision on the basis of aesthetics instead. That it'll be like, oh, this character looks like me, this character represents me, and I don't feel seen in that way with other characters. Like, I know a girl who, in Super Smash Bros. Melee, for whatever reason, Daisy was a weirdly different like coloration. Like she had a much darker skin tone in addition to the dress and everything. And so this was never like canon or anything, but I know girls, multiple girls, who liked playing that specific skin because they thought of it as Latina Peach, and they thought that it looked more like them. And I think that that's just something like, I don't know of any like white boy gamer who has ever been like, I want to play this character because they look like me, because they represent me. And I don't even think it's like a matter of the scarcity of representation, of like whether they feel represented in games at all or not. Because I think that's something that a lot of people will point to, especially in like movies. But I think in a game, a lot of it is also just, they're not thinking about what the character looks like at all. Are they a top tier? Cool. Like, or are they a character? Are they something that's like people consider cool that's not a top tier? That happens in Splatoon a lot. Like every like blobber player ever. Let's be honest. This is a call out. All of you are like this.
I know, I'm
like,
very much like,
is,
my Splatoon
point is
fits
always
gotta
skill
look
expression
good.
of some kind. It's either intelligent expression or it's like mechanical skill expression. And that's what will really make the typical socialized gamer guy want to play a certain way.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. And I know, like, for anybody listening, being like, that doesn't, like, well, I'm this gender, and that doesn't apply to me. We're talking, like, a lot of, just, like, general, populations and whatnot. Just, trends. As opposed to, you know, not a, like, oh, if you are a girl, you always are going to be just more predisposed to playing for aesthetics and whatnot. But, we do have certain trends and whatnot, and it's, we never want to be like, oh, well, like, you know, there's a causation happening here, but like we can sort of look at certain correlations, be like, oh, that's interesting how this plays out. And you know, I couldn't tell you exactly like why that is, other than like to some extent certain things have got to come down to how we get socialized as kids, and sometimes certain things that are just instilled in us and encouraged in us that maybe even the adults aren't necessarily thinking that they're encouraging more in one gender than the other, because internalized biases, but that just sort of happened. Like I did a lot of competitive stuff as a kid. Like I did soccer all throughout my life up until end of high school, and I did, you know, plenty of gaming then, and have gotten even more competitive with games since then with Splatoon. And I still, when I look at some commonalities I see in certain esports scenes that I feel like would be very hostile to me, a part of it is like, I would say, a more toxic side of toxic masculine competitiveness, where there might be a fair amount of trash talk, which I will do a little bit of with close friends in the community, but we've got to already be on good terms. For like, when a friend of mine beat me so bad at Riptide last year, and then as soon as the match was over, I went over and I gave him a hug, and I was like, I hate you, as I gave him a hug, and I was like, how does it feel to play V-Shot and be God's favorite? And I was like, I can have like this sort of trash talk with my friends and whatnot. But I noticed in Smash, and even like not in any like tournaments and whatnot, but just like sweaty casual players would be like very, very heavy on the trash talk against me, and I was like, whoa, I don't like this. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. And I get that maybe you don't realize that this is making me uncomfortable because you think it's normal, but it's not what I want out of gaming spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that, of course, would only fuel this pushback of like, oh, well, that just means you're not cut out for these spaces. You don't have thick skin.
Yeah, some people do say that, and it's like, oh, well, I'm just gonna not play those games. And so, fortunately, I think there are a lot of reasons why there is a lot of diversity in Splatoon, both on the casual side and competitive sides. I think not having voice chat helps a lot. I don't, hop into a lobby like in Overwatch and then immediately get like hate crimed.
Most underrated design choice of the entire video game.
Right? I love having, voice chat with my teammates when we're playing as a team, but I don't want to voice chat with Tommy, who, grew up on really sexist YouTubers, and then I'm like, oh gosh, no, please don't talk to me.
Yeah. It's like... and that's just like an aspect that like we talked about, this like blindness to the experience of what women are gonna go through. It's like, well, why wouldn't you want it? That just must mean that you don't care about being competitive. Because like, obviously it's a competitive advantage. Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Yeah, that's what I've been very upfront on socials when I've like seen people, even in our own Splatoon spaces at, large lands, when I've seen people who are very clearly not playfully ribbing on one another. I'm just like, that was a very hostile taunt that somebody made, and like, as a TO, if I were to witness that as a TO, I would probably make a pretty harsh call. But regardless, I would be like, this is clearly not something that I would find acceptable in a space. And I could see how maybe some people growing up in spaces where more aggressive behavior is not seen as necessarily like meaning to be super aggressive necessarily. It's just like, oh, well, it's just like a fun jokey thing we do. I could see how they wouldn't make the same call, but I've just been like, no, I've been on the other side where people said, oh, I was just teasing, why can't you take a joke? And I'm like, I
Didn't
could
feel
just
like a joke.
I could just go elsewhere and not deal with this, and that's how you lose people in a community.
Yep. It's like I say all the time, like, your value to the community is how many people you bring in versus how many you drive away. And like, I think another aspect of that that's missing, there's this like really popular like comic that someone made of like this like well put together businessman doing finger guns at a woman and going, "Looking good, Susan," and that says permitted. And then there's this conventionally unattractive man going, "Looking good, Susan," and it says, she's like recoiling and says, "This is sexual harassment." I don't know if I can probably grab up a link to it for the sake of chat's reference if they need.
It sounds familiar. I'll probably recognize it like the minute I see it. Nox knows what comic you're describing.
Aha!
I feel
All right,
like
here
I've
we go.
probably seen it.
I'm just going to copy image address, and then hopefully when this posts, it's not an absolutely massive link. It's a massive link. Oh well.
It'd be like that.
So there's this idea that like, oh, well, why is this okay in one context and not in another, huh? And it's going back to that idea of like, this is all inconsistent. Everything I do is wrong. It must just be that they're more attractive than me. Like, this is... And I read a really interesting answer to this comic recently that said that you're looking at the wrong person in the panel when you're looking for what the difference is between these two. The way it's often interpreted is oh, this guy is only getting away with it because he's more attractive, and that's the only deciding factor. But that we should be looking at the woman instead, because on the left, the woman is cool with it. She's playing into it. She's going along with it. And on the right, she wasn't expecting this at all. She gave no hints that this was desired, and that's really what the problem is with it all. And I think that goes into this idea here with the trash talk, where it's like, this is cool as long as the other person is cool with it and is leaning into it and is going along with it. But as soon as that's not happening, it's not cool anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like everybody has to be in on the joke for it to be a joke.
And like, even for it not to be a joke, like it has to be something where it's like these two people have, you know, designated each other as rivals, and, you know, while they may fight intensely in the game and have some choice words about it after the fact and want to be better, it's because they both understand that this is what they each want, and they will respect each other in spite of those interactions.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you do that to certain people, they just don't feel respected at all.
Yep.
You know, and that'll just, like, make them want to leave, because that's not fun.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of times it's like, okay, well, like, what is the other context here? I don't know you, we don't have that sort of relationship, so, like, if you start, you know, like, trash talking me and talking me down between games in the middle of a set, like, you're just a stranger to me, and so I'm just gonna be like, I don't have any context for, like, who you are. The only context I have is that you're being mean to me.
Yeah. And, like, I also just think that, like, the people who really trash talk a lot, it's a lot of the time stemming from, like, insecurity of, like, being able to tell themselves, no, I clearly am valuable, I clearly am better, I clearly am worthy in this context. It's like a need for them to be able to convince themselves of this as much as anything else. And that insecurity is never cool. That insecurity is never something that's going to make a person more fun to hang around. So when they start exhibiting that behavior, it's like, well, I see where this is coming from, and it's not making me want to enjoy your company any further. And it also tends not to come from the people who are quite the best. There are exceptions to this, but, like, a lot of the time, the most of that sort of behavior is actually coming from people a step down from the best of the best.
Yeah.
There are people who can beat most folks, but are self-conscious because they've put so much time and effort into the game and aren't the best themselves. And so it's like, any chance they get to beat down on someone lesser is a reminder, oh, hey, I still am actually pretty good at this.
Yeah, and it's often projecting.
Those are the people who cheat the most, too. The people who are going to, like, hack a game or aimbot or something. It's never, like, number one. It's always, like, close to number one, but not quite. Which is frustrating, because in a lot of cases, it's like, you could actually become number one with, like, a little bit of work. You're like, 95% of the way there. What are you doing?
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on how, not that there aren't any women in, like, top level Splatoon, but, like, I would say there are, looking at ratio wise, I would say there are definitely fewer women in top level Splatoon compared to, like, low level and mid level Splatoon, and how much of that is resources being gated from women, maybe not super intentionally, but just, societal stuff that we all deal with and results culture, at least in my experience, like I find that a lot of the resources end up getting gated behind like you having to prove a certain skill level, and I find that people want female players to have a higher skill level before they're willing to acknowledge their skill.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to that like socialization of competition, that you get to a certain threshold and a lot of the men and boys that are there are thinking not necessarily like girls don't belong here, but thinking like this is for me to show that I'm better than the other guys. And so it just feels less natural for them to bring a woman into that context. It's like they don't really know what to do with that, and I think that leads to some negative responses on their part. I know that just I don't want to share anyone's individual experiences, you know, publicly without having talked to them first, but there are definitely some stories I could tell of people who have definitely felt that way. I will say I had an experience similar to that at one point myself, where like I was a person who was thinking that way about a woman, and part of what I think caused that was what I've been talking about with like approaching games in different ways, having a different objective of playing the game. That whole, I think women approach games in a more methodical, like what's going to win the best kind of way. And one of the things that taught me that was actually there was a woman in the community who at the time was around a similar division to me, but that quickly improved and got picked up by, I think it was like a Div 2 team at the time. And I remember seeing that and being like, what? She's Div 2? Like, I remember like winning 1v1s against her. And I was like, this doesn't seem like a reasonable place for her to have been placed based on how she played against me. And then the next time I got in a solo queue lobby with her, I remember going for a bunch of those 1v1s figuring, oh, well, I can just, like, I know that I'm strong mechanically and that I can probably beat her at this. And I would go for the 1v1. I think I got her, like, once. But then as soon as I got her once, she would take one step forward to get me to do that and then back up and I would die to something else. And it was like frustrating because I'm like, I know I can win if I can just close the distance. And what I was missing was the whole point was I wasn't going to be able to close the distance. She knew to just not put herself in that scenario. That sort of thing is a lot harder to convince a guy is a skill. Like a guy is likely to look at that and think, oh, that's just her compensating for her obvious lack of skill. But like if she beats you, what definition of skill are you using that means anything?
Right.
So that was a moment of like unlearning it for me myself. Like, that player is better than I am. That player is better than I was better than I was. And coming to terms with that, like recognizing that I was estimating that wrongly is, I think, a big part of like what I'm sharing in this conversation today. Like a lot of it came from me being beaten by that player in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, like, we all get biases, and sometimes it's not until, like, hindsight, where you're like, oh, right! I think maybe just, like, you know, I had some stuff that I wasn't aware of. Because we live in a society. So yeah, I always want people to like really take it to heart that you are equally capable of good and bad things, and also just because you have, you know, a bad thought or whatnot, being very general about the usage of bad, could go into a whole other like therapy talk about how
good and bad exist, and I'll die on that hill anyway.
I'm just like, you are not necessarily an extremely terrible, horrible person based off of like one thing that you have done or said. And I think sometimes people really kneecap themselves by being like, oh, well, I did terrible sexist thing once, and therefore I'm a terrible person who can never be redeemed. And then that just becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's like, if I can't ever be redeemed, then what's the point of trying?
Right, then why try?
Beat him, join him.
And so that's how a lot of people will fall into like those sort of really frightening incel communities, because even like those people will argue like, you are terrible and nobody will love you but us. And I'm just like, no, that's how we lose people.
That's what abuse sounds like.
Yeah.
But oh man, I had a thought and then I lost it. My bad.
Story of my night playing this.
Right, it's like, ooh, I get to focus on the game because Rose is talking now. Wait, what was I gonna say? Oh, right, but what I was gonna say is that, like, a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking about whether they are a good person or not. And it's, like, so intolerable for a person to think that they are a bad person. Like, there are so many crazy hoops, mental gymnastics people will jump through to not have to see themselves as a bad person. And they can, and the only way that I've found really helps to attach good and bad to anything is to talk about good and bad things that you've done. Like, there are attack actions, not people. There are not bad people. There are bad things that people do.
Yeah.
And once you can detach the person's identity from the word bad, they're perfectly capable of looking at themselves and saying, okay, yeah, I did a bad thing. I made a mistake. I should not have said that. Because the I isn't feeling bad. It's just feeling like, oh, I'm recognizing that this had an adverse outcome. So that's something that's really important for getting through that with people, I think. So going back to that whole perceived contradiction of, like, as a man, well, what am I supposed to do then? You know, how, like, let's say you are a guy, you have these nerdy hobbies, you want to eventually at some point meet a girl or a woman and develop a relationship, maybe around that hobby, maybe about something else. But all of the women in your community feel like they're unicorns and do not want to be approached in that way ever for any reason. What do you as that guy do? As a woman who is into men, has married a man, how do? What's the tutorial here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, all I can tell y'all is that my husband got me interested to keep talking to him because he said he'd played Hot of a Boyfriend. The pigeon dating sim, and I was like, oh, I love that game. But, you know, I'll also say I ghosted him at first. We were getting introduced via mutual friends, and he messaged me on Facebook beforehand because, you know, our mutual friend, you know, told us each other's names, and they were like, yeah, we're all going to be at this college convention that I was going to be visiting, and we'd already planned, like, yeah, let's, like, meet up there and say hi and, like, maybe chat and whatnot. And he DM'd me on Facebook, and I ignored it. I didn't respond at first. We hadn't met in person yet, so I was like, I don't know you. Like, I don't know, maybe you're super weird. Like I was like, I've had enough really bad situations with guys online that I just got to be like a lot more careful with like the space that I'm giving. And so I would really like encourage people to give things time, and it's a really delicate balance and everybody's different. Sometimes if something doesn't pan out the way you wanted it to, well, then you just be like, well, it just wasn't meant to be then. Just like we, you know, maybe this wasn't the right time for both of us in our, you know, whatever stage of our life we're in. Maybe, you know, we were just never going to work out, and that's okay. And to, you know, not take it as a personal failing if somebody rejects you or doesn't show interest back.
I think there's a lot of insecurity built into rejection that like people will be like, oh, you've got no bitches.
Yeah.
Like think about what
that meme.
It's silly, but think about what that means. Like you are being insulted for women not finding you attractive. So if at some point you don't have a woman, like, oh God, does that mean that you're losing the competition?
Yeah. Like, it's okay, man. You know, I have friends my age in their 30s who have not found a partner yet. And they're understandably frustrated. But, like, it happens. It's not a race. You'll meet plenty of people in your life. But also just, like, the importance of not treating a romantic relationship as, like, the bedrock of what you need in your life. Friendships can be super, super influential in your life. And I think really should be just as influential as, like, any romantic partner that you have or that you're, you know, hoping to pursue. And a lot of it for me, it was just like he and I connected very much on shared interests. We were both in a very similar stage of our life. We were both going to be graduating from college soon. We were both, you know, I was open to moving because I was like, I think I'm going to be working remotely. So I'm pretty open to moving. And so we decided we were going to move in. And we'd had a lot of, you know, heart-to-heart conversations about things that were important to us, and got a really good sense of what our personalities were like, and also how to mediate conflict, which is something that is always really, really important, and things that we still work on now, coming up on 10 years into being married. And a lot of it, like, you gotta meet people with where they are and also hold them to do the same to you. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and that's okay. And you go to events and whatnot hoping to meet people, maybe, you know, like, oh, you know, maybe I'll eventually meet somebody who, you know, I might fall in love with. And if that happens, awesome, that's really cool and exciting. And if it doesn't happen, that's okay too. Because I think for like the last thing a lot of women want to experience, especially like a lot of hobby spaces that tend to traditionally be more male dominated, like it feels so bad where it's like, no, I was not coming here, like I did not come to Riptide with the intention of like it being a spot where I'm going to find a boyfriend. That was not my intention of coming here. If it happens, awesome, but like that's not why I'm here. And so just like treat people like people, you know, like they're potential friends that you could make, and if it turns into something romantic, awesome. That's an extra added benefit.
I want to dig into that because every man alive has heard that treat her like a person and does not know what the hell that means. Yeah. So I'm going to be really, really picky and ask you questions to get to the root of what that means. I have an idea of what it means, but I want to hear your take first.
Yeah.
So like treat her like a person. Well, like what, like, is there any one default kind of person that you think someone who thinks in gender roles will treat the same way? Because like you wouldn't treat your mom like you would treat your husband, You wouldn't
It's
treat
true.
a kid like you would treat an adult. So, like, what kind of person am I supposed to treat her like?
Yeah,
What
no,
I've been
that
told
is
by society is I'm supposed to make the first move. I'm supposed to say nice things about her that she will appreciate. And then we're gonna fall in love and get married, and I'm gonna be the prince, and she's gonna be the princess, and I'm probably gonna slay a dragon at some point, and it's gonna be sick.
that's the happy ending that everybody wants. You know, you get married, you can go slay
Right.
dragons together.
See, the slay dragons together part, no. I'm supposed to slay the dragon, and the woman is just there to have the dragon slayed for her, and to be really impressed by that.
You're just like, oh my god, you slew a dragon, it's so neat. Yeah,
Right.
it's like, it is really important to, like, we don't actually treat everybody literally the same. Code switching is a very normal thing to do, and sort of like wearing a mask for different situations. I don't talk to, like, a client or a boss the same way I would to my husband and whatnot. I wouldn't talk to my Splatoon, or rather, I wouldn't talk to, like, a stranger in the Splatoon community the same way that I talk to, like, my teammates and whatnot. There are different contexts that we have. But as a general, like, okay, we're in a shared, let's say we're in a shared space, we're, like, at a LAN. I would expect people to treat others with this basic modicum of respect as human beings, and maybe that's hard for some people to sort of like internalize the same way, because I am bi, so I'm also like, I also find pretty girls really like cool to be around. I get it, I understand. I also find men very pretty to be around. And so, like, the gender, like, being like, oh, like, I had to treat girls this sort of way. I'm like, I don't get that, because I like all genders. But it can be very exhausting to be, like, seen as an object. And so I will try to think of people around me as
Ooh, big
subjects.
thunderclap.
So, like, everybody's a subject in their own life, in their own story. And to, in my own story, not
Ooh,
act like
okay.
everybody around me is an object.
Gotcha. And, you know, the philosophical definitions of that word might be a little bit... This is something that needs some contextualizing, but I think that does play well into the way that I was going to talk about it, too. So I think I'll start with that.
Yeah, tell me your thoughts.
I have this concept of my inner child, which I think means something very different than what it means to some people when they hear that. Like, a lot of people just think of it as like, oh, a sense of whimsy. But to me, I think of childhood, and I think of that time that I looked at a black person for the first time in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And screwed my eyes up when my mom called them a black person, because I was like, wait, but they're brown. I know my crayons.
Mm-hmm.
I think about a time where these divisions that are socially constructed did not exist because I had not had time or perception to be taught them yet.
Yeah, you're
I
sort
think
of
about,
a blank
like,
slate.
At that time, exactly. At that time when I was best friends with a girl because we liked the same books,
Right, yeah.
that way of seeing the world is really valuable to me. Like, if I really have a hard time making a decision for myself, I try to kind of meditate on, like, what would my inner child want? Because my inner child does have a personality. It's not like it's a completely empty vessel.
Mm-hmm.
There are things about me that are just immutable. And if I think about, like, happy dreams that I've had that reflect what I want from my life, if I think about, like, what I value from the perspective of that inner child, like, it strips away everything that I'm told to be, told to do, and it just tells me what I want. And seeing other people through that lens, where I'm ignoring the social pressure to make the first move, to be the Rizzler that I was born to be. You know, to get a girlfriend because that's a mark of my own progress as an individual. I mean, you could even, I don't even necessarily disagree that that might be like one way that you could assess that, except that the focus on it and the fixation on it is preventing it from happening. So it's like, you look at it from the perspective of, how do I want to interact with this person just because of them liking the same things or them saying the thing that made me happy? And maybe that does get romantic, maybe that does get sexual, but not in a objectifying way. It's just, oh hey, when I'm with this person, like, I like talking to them, but also they make me feel funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird because like that inner child mindset, it starts to sound very strange when I talk about the fact that like you can use that to think about sexuality. Just, there's a lot bound up in the wording of it, so that's why I usually don't say it out loud that way. But
yeah,
that's what's helped me kind of get into the right headspace for figuring out like what I should and should not do, how someone might want to be approached. Thinking about like, okay, well, how would I want to be approached? Obviously, I'm not going to approach in exactly the same way that someone would approach me, but what would make me feel good? And do I think that that probably applies to this other person? You know, platinum rule when applicable. This person has said that they appreciate this thing. Let's do that for them.
yes.
And so it becomes not about you and your exploits as a successful man. It becomes about two parties, you and your relationship to this other person who you're considering and factoring into the decision-making process. Like we said before, it's like you're looking at the wrong person in the picture. You need to look at, is she into this too? Is she giving you signs that this is desirable? Like, if a woman likes you, you're gonna find out about that. Like, if you really, frankly, like, there's a lot of this talk about how men need to get more comfortable with approaching women, but it's like, realistically speaking, in most cases, heterosexually, the woman is approaching first. She's doing it in a much more subtle way to signal, hey, I want you to approach me more explicitly and actually do the brave thing and show that you, like, I'm worth doing that to you. There's, I mean, I'm not going to say the more crude version of what I just said, but there is a very... did you know what aphorism I'm about to say?
I might.
about two articles of clothing matching?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. If you know, you know. I heard that once and I was like, this explains so much about society.
And for like a lot of that is very like, we have a lot of not explicitly stated cues where it's like, we are just like, people will often just like cue you like, hey, I'm trying to send you signals, and those can get lost. I am somebody who will completely miss when somebody is into me. This is a thing. Or I'm just like, oh, I bet they're just super nice with everybody, and people are like, no. And I'm like, oh, whoops, well, I missed that. Like, and that's normal. And I know like some people are going to struggle with that more than others. If it's like genuinely been a while and you're like, I don't know if this person's trying to signal something to me, as scary as it is, you can just ask. It is okay to ask and just be like, hey, I just wanted to check in with you and see if I have the right idea about what's going on. And like, it's also okay to ask and be like, are you interested in pursuing something further? In my experience, a lot of the frustration I've had with men is if I have said no to something, I've never been offended with them like asking me something, and if I was like uncomfortable, like, oh no, I'm uncomfortable doing that, or like I don't want to do that, like I'm actually like more put off if they react very negatively by me holding a boundary. And that's usually been what the problem is. And if like, even if like you start flirting with somebody, you like at a LAN or wherever, or online over Discord DMs or whatnot, people are gonna get different signals and people like different things. And if you genuinely mess up, be like, oh, I thought this person liked that, and it turns out they didn't, you know, you're gonna mess up sometimes, and you just try to live and learn. And most importantly, you just apologize, and you're just like, I am so sorry. I did not realize that I was making you uncomfortable. I am so sorry that I did not pick up on that earlier, and I will make sure not to do that again. And
it is a very gender non-specific attractive thing, by the way, to communicate like that. Like,
yeah.
To be able to just say, hey, do you like me? Like, that's terrifying. And
yes,
to be
scary.
willing to be willing to do that, people will see that and go, wow, they're so brave. Or like they'll say, wow, if I have a problem with this person, they're going to actually work it out with me. They're not going to get upset with me.
Yes.
Even if there's some kind of pushback, some kind of resistance. Like, that's attractive.
It is so important. It like underrated, like top tier thing you want in a relationship. Somebody who's willing to communicate with you even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like I've heard stories of people who caught feelings when someone took rejection well. Not to say that that's like something that you should expect to happen. Like, you should always take people at their word, and perseverance is not always a virtue, but just to say that, like, if you don't attach your own personal worth to being rejected, and you just say, all right, I like, this person has every right to say no, it's okay that they say no, and it doesn't say anything wrong about me if they say no, then you're not going to react negatively. You're not going to be like, oh my god, this is so horrible, women are so confusing, and it's like, she was obviously giving me signs, like, what the hell is going on, what's wrong with her? Like, those kinds of thoughts don't happen if you're not insecure about that particular kind of rejection, if you're not uncomfortable about the boundaries. So when that happens, like, and you have those kinds of conversations, that shows that the opposite is true, that you can take rejection, you can treat this person like a human being in the way that you've been told to, but have never understood what that means.
Yes, it is very affirming when, if like somebody asks you something and they genuinely care about your yes or no and respect it. Like, it feels so nice. It's like, oh my gosh, people can be like that, and I really appreciate it. And so, like, I feel like everybody should strive to be that person of like, somebody asked me, or I asked somebody if they were okay with something, they said no, and I respected that and didn't make a big deal out of it personally. You're allowed to be really upset about it. Like, I think sometimes people take it as like, oh, so I'm not allowed to be sad that I got rejected. Like, that's not the case. I asked a friend out once, and he told me no, and I got so sad that I went out and I bought a cheesecake and I just ate it. I was so sad. Like, you're allowed to be sad, but just like, there are certain things you need to process on your own, and not with the person who you were maybe trying to strike up a relationship with, but turned you down and said no. So for a lot of that, I think sometimes people don't understand what like the term emotional labor is, and it's had a lot of different like meanings over the years, based on whether this is about a literal job, especially of like being, for example, like a flight attendant, versus just the everyday emotional invisible labor that a lot of women have to do, and especially a lot of heteronormative relationships, but also like in work settings, even of just like having to be the person who's always keeping the peace, having to be very measured and like do a lot of thinking before you say no to somebody, being like, okay, I have to weigh my options, how safe do I feel, and being like really overt about me shutting them down, like how safe do I feel in this environment. That's why a lot of people are like, no, I would rather have these conversations and whatnot with somebody I don't know yet, in public, in person, with people around us. And just, I just want people to be good people who listen to one another and be like, it's okay to have negative emotions and be angry and pissed off and sad. Heaven knows I get angry and sad like almost every day. And it's more important about how do you express those emotions. Are you putting undue emotional burdens on somebody who's already like trying to get their distance from you? Like, do you have people in your life you could turn to instead? I feel like everybody, I don't know, I have the group chat with my friends where I'm just like, hey guys, I'm gonna complain to you about something that happened in the Splatoon community, and none of you are in it, you don't know anything about it, but I get to just complain to you. And they're like, cool, yay!
And another thing that I want to put in people's heads about rejection that has been really powerful for me personally is you can still be friends with someone who romantically rejects you. In fact, that's a really awesome thing to happen.
It is.
It's not a failure of your riz. It could just be that, you have this thing in common, but they weren't feeling X, Y, or Z thing, and you can still get value out of that relationship. You don't have to just decide it's over and cut it off, because men and women can be friends. And I am friends with a lot of people who either I have rejected or have rejected me. It's awesome having some of those relationships, because now there's this like, you can be a little bit more vulnerable with each other because there's no tension of that nature that's making it like, wait, would he think that I'm hitting on him if I do that? You can just kind of be open with each other. It's like, I remember in college this experience where I'm just walking down the sidewalk and there's a woman walking towards me in the opposite direction, and I didn't recognize it at first, but 20 feet away from me, she was already avoiding eye contact, avoiding like any means of like me striking up a conversation. She was swerving me hard, and I hadn't even noticed her yet. It was just like 20 feet away, defense protocols activated. That sort of thing happens when you don't know how the person's going to react to, say, a rejection. But if you now know how they're reacting to rejection and it's fine, that whole anxiety is gone, and now they're going to be a lot more open with you than they were before in all likelihood. Like that, again, like that's an attractive feature, and as such, it's like, oh yeah, I can be friends. That's fine, whatever. You're not going to be weird about it.
You already did one of the most embarrassing things ever and survived.
Yep.
Yeah, asking people out sucks. Like, believe me, it is terrifying.
Oh no.
But like once you do it, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't quite as bad as I thought.
Yep. And it's like, it's so valuable too, because a lot of, again, my best friends in the world are people that basically happened to. Either them coming and talking to me like that, or me trying to approach and getting shot down. And it's like, even the phrase shot down, I don't want to say that, because like, that's not how it feels. because I've got all of these friends now.
Yeah. One reef slider canceled after another. Just another day in Splatoon.
Point. Nice.
Boink.
Boink.
Yeah, I think in general, just like people being more open and honest in communication is a good way of approaching relationships, both with friends and maybe potential romantic partners. And with both, you know, new friends and maybe new girlfriend or boyfriend or partner in some way, I think in general, people just need to approach these things with like, I will be so lucky if this person and I hit it off and I'm going to feel awesome. And if it doesn't work out, or even if it does work out and then things crash and burn later, you don't take it personally and just being like, this is not if things just like fizzle out or whatnot, and be like, this is not my fault. Just like things didn't work out, or I asked somebody out, they turned me down. This is not a reflection on me. These things happen, and just a lot of bad feelings that go on. I think people would be better off if they didn't turn it into this giant narrative about their life. And this is hard. I'm a person who frequently will over narrativize her own life, where I'm like, XYZ terrible things have all happened in my life. Why does God hate me? Being like, woe is me. And it is, I think you will be happier in the long run if you just be like, these are just things that have happened to me and they do not define me and they do not define my life going forward.
But wait, what if Gem is just a white knight beta cuck who's whipped by, well, I don't actually have a partner right now, so maybe not that, but what if I shouldn't be listening to him because he's not this manly man, this true God, I don't even know what
some nonsense.
This clavicular mogger.
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. Oh, I'm sure nobody in that sphere is in either of these chats, but oh my gosh, a lot of that rhetoric in those spaces is so damaging. And I think actually introspection is really good. There's a really fine line that I've been trying to work on in therapy of not reaching the point of overthinking things where you're ruminating. Because rumination does tend to be very negative, and you tend to then overplay and overemphasize the negative things in your life over, you know, a more balanced, neutral, not even like positive, but a more neutral way of looking at your life. Mm-hmm. Making sure not to fall into those missteps while seeing how important it is to actually reflect on things like, okay, maybe like, did I come off wrong here? Did I do something where I overstepped and made somebody uncomfortable? Because I think in a lot of cases, people will not tell you when something made them uncomfortable, because I can say on the, you know, when things have made me uncomfortable, if I don't feel safe with that person necessarily, I'm probably not going to tell them. I'm probably not going to do like then the emotional labor of teaching them of where they went wrong and giving them that feedback. So it can be hard to learn from that, and it does take a lot of time of looking back on your past experiences and be like, is there a pattern here? Sometimes asking your close friends, if you have that sort of close relationship, and be like, hey guys, I noticed that this is a thing that's happened a few times in my life. What are your thoughts on this? Is there something like I'm messing up in my approach? Am I like, is there something that I'm saying or doing that's making women uncomfortable? Say if you're a man.
And this is the part where you tap those people who have rejected you in the past that are now your friends on the shoulder, and you say, hey, you're someone who is in the age and other demographics of people that I want to date. What are your thoughts on this? Because if you get your dad's thoughts on that instead, you're going to get a different story. Anyway, continue.
No, it's yes, all very good things. I think that was a good thing to like bring up. I think that was our Barua, that like it is, introspection is good and cool. I think actually a lot of people will learn more about themselves and unworking their biases by being introspective and really thinking, okay, well, why did I think that? What are the thought processes I'm having and the thought patterns that I'm examining? Because like a lot of critical behavior therapy is for CBT, which is a very, very, very common thing that a lot of therapists use, is or cognitive behavioral therapy will be looking back on things going on in your life and how you have, like, what your thought processes and patterns have been out of those, and really examining them from a more neutral standpoint and being like, okay, but was that true? Am I overgeneralizing? Am I like leaping to conclusions? What sort of history do I have with these sorts of thoughts? Do I have any prior experiences to show me that this conclusion I'm making is wrong? Because I have lived experience to show me that this is wrong. Introspection is good, but you need to make sure that you don't introspect your way into a corner, into or a spiral. You're right, Nevik, like a doom spiral. You want to make sure that you avoid that.
There's a tactic that's got used in Gamergate a lot. I think that was kind of the peak of the term white knighting, where if someone's trying to stand up for the people who are being harassed, they're white knights. And I think that term, it's a scary one because a lot of the time there actually is a grain of truth to it with the people that Gamergate was targeting. And I wanted to dig into that a little bit. I was trying to like find a good segue for it and never actually did, because there were other good things that we were talking about for sure, but I wanted to bring that point up because it's literally the last one on my bulleted list.
Let's like our last topic for tonight.
Yeah, I see. Chat, I pick up on hints. I saw that nobody made another open lobby. Big brain, big brain.
Like, oh, it's 10 p.m. My spouse and I were going to watch the new Game Changer episode.
Yeah. So, one of the insidious things about the White Knight idea was that it makes it so, like, a guy who is interested in getting to know women, meeting women, possibly dating women, gets told, oh, you're only defending them because you want to date them. And guy looks at himself and goes, wait, is that true? Is it true that I only want to behave this way towards women because I care about dating them? And I think there are genuinely some people who maybe haven't had that female friendship because they've been conditioned out of it and don't actually see the value in it yet, who are having trouble seeing women as people in that way right now, or seeing them as like potential friends even if they reject them. And they look at that and they go, wait, that's just kind of true about me, isn't it? Like, it feels like an accurate criticism, I think, to some people when that gets thrown around. I know, like, back in Gamergate, I did speak up against sexism, but I also got called a white knight, and when I did, I was like, oh shit, wait, I need to think about myself. And I can talk about how I resolved that for myself, but I also want to hear what your thoughts are on it first, and like what your experience has been with that.
About specifically somebody maybe like white knighting just because they are interested in women.
Really both. Like, is that something that you see prevalently? Is that a valid criticism? Is that something that, like, how would you answer the gamergator who's saying that? What would you say to the person who's being accused of that? And how true do you think that accusation actually is to life? You know, statistically speaking, how often is that the case? Is that a good thing, bad thing? That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I don't think it's that common. At least in like my experience, I had plenty of coworkers back during Gamergate who got accused of being white knights, who definitely were. I mean, some of them were already married and had kids, and they were like, I'm
white knighting for my wife that I have, and also my daughters who I have."
And it was it
but I just need Pokemon to notice me.
Right, if I just white knight hard enough. Yeah, it was such like a, I like Tonic mentioned, like it was the term very efficiently weaponizes gender norms to shield and maintain gender norms. Yeah, it was very much like, oh well, like this one, either you are doing this just because you want a girl to like you, or oh well, you're just doing this because like men protect women and whatnot. I saw it both ways, things being accused, and I was like, I mean, yeah, there's some like, I definitely did encounter a couple people who like in their quote unquote white knighting, I was like, okay, you are actually going like way beyond what you should, because now you're like speaking for the people that you are defending, and you're misrepresenting them, and in some cases people, when they were trying to defend people, were actually just attracting more harassment their way.
White people, take notes.
Yes, actually, one on that note, I actually do recommend that people look into, oh, I can't remember the name of it, but I actually took a class on it was like the 5 Ds of bystander intervention, I think is that called? Yeah, the 5 Ds of bystander intervention. That's I took like a workshop by Right to Be, which is an organization. And what the main thing I got out of that was that people want different things when they're a target of harassment. Some people will feel better if you are actively like engaging the person who was harassing them. Some people would prefer you distract them and that you're just like, you're sitting there present with them. And some people really want you to document things for them. That can be very helpful. There are different ways of helping, and people are going to like different things and seek different things. If you can, and something is not like an imminent threat, I think ideally it is frequently more appreciated, especially if you have like any relationship with the person being harassed, to reach out to them privately and just be like, hey, I saw that this was happening. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? Is there anything I can do for you? Do you want me to speak publicly about this? Because some people will say, no, I don't want you to stand up for me publicly, because it's actually going to just attract more attention, and it's going to prolong their harassment for me. So actually, I did see some Gamergate victims who got very upset with people who their hearts were in the right place. And they were like, hey, it is absolute BS how you're treating this person. And they were like, no, please be quiet. I had like 1 hour of quiet, and now it's going to start up again. Please, no. And so like, I definitely saw some people be bad white knights. It's going to be different from person to person what they want. If you're ever in doubt, and I feel like a lot of times you should be in doubt, you should reach out to people privately. And I think most of the time people just want to not feel alone. Anytime that I've been like publicly harassed, I have felt so much better when people have reached out to me privately to be like, I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. What can I do? Were there any other questions? Did I miss anything?
And so, to say a guy who is interested in meeting women, but is generally in good faith speaking up like, hey, this person shouldn't be getting treated this way. should they feel like that is something that they're doing for the wrong reasons? Or because something I think about is like, okay, so you want this person to like you, and maybe it's in a romantic way and it's specifically for that, but like, let's just take that base assumption you're doing this because you want this person to like you. Like, isn't that a reason to talk to anybody, to have social interactions with anybody? Like, let's say that you do actually step in to defend this person in part because you want to have this relationship with them. Is that defending them somehow ignoble? I guess the ignoble part might be if you don't step in to defend someone that you're not romantically interested in.
True.
But like, how else is that even a bad thing?
Yeah, I think really, so long as you are not doing something with the expectation that you're going to get something out of it, like, it's okay to be like...
As long as you're not, like, robbing them of their agency to say no, as long as there is, like, consent there.
You know, you treat people like, you know, they are subjects and not just somebody you are enacting things upon, and that they will just go along with it. And
I saved you from the dragon. Why no smooches?
Why are you? Yeah, why did I read the books. Kill dragon, get smooch. Like, why that not happening?
I played Super Mario for the NES.
Right, I saved the princess from the castle.
I know how this goes.
Yeah, and it's a lot of these times just like, all right, you're allowed to do something because you like somebody, and getting attention makes you feel good. That's normal. We are social creatures. I regret to inform you, even those of you who are introverts, we're social creatures, and we like it when we have good relationships with other people. So long as you are not expecting that this person owes you something, because then it's like, okay, well, like, what were you hoping to get out of this? Where really it's more like, okay, this person you want to defend is having a really rough time, and really the onus is on you to be there for them and what they need, and not to flip the script and have it be, okay, but what can I get out of them?
Right. I think about it like this. Like, there was a girl once who liked me and made me cookies. And I didn't reciprocate those feelings. And I thanked her for it and everything, but like, things didn't progress the way she wanted. And so she didn't keep showing up and like giving me things. And it's like, she's not wrong for having made me those cookies. She's not wrong for having, done that nice thing for me. Now, if maybe I had been, in trouble and she was the only one who could help and she decided not to help, okay, that's messed up.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't have to be that I reciprocate her feelings for her to be willing to do that. But going out of your way to do the nice thing on that basis isn't wrong either. So that's kind of where I draw my lines. It's like, you should probably defend someone, or at least, ask them if they're okay if something's happening. But if that happens to be a thing that you do with someone that you also have romantic feelings for, like, there's nothing inherently wrong about that.
Yeah. You just have just the right amount of introspection to be like, okay, so long as I know that I'm not doing this with the intention of getting something out of it, other than just the feeling
with like
of being
the
a good
expectation, with the expectation that if disappointed will cause me to be frightening.
Yeah.
Don't be frightening.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was an awesome conversation, Gem.
Thank you so much for coming on for this. Like, I heard your conversation with Roa, and I was like, I want to say so many things and hear so many things from you. And we got to do that, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that we did. So if there's anything you want to shout out to my people, go ahead and do it. But before you do, I will say, go follow Rose. She is very cool, and I like her. Okay, your turn.
Thank you. Yeah, I am Rose of Battle on all the various social places that I have here on Twitch, YouTube. I have both just like my mainline channel that I am very... I have ADHD and I'm bad at finishing things. I have like 5 video ideas in the pipeline. So I like have several things that I'm working on over on my mainline YouTube channel in addition to just like my VODs channel. You can find me over on
Don't worry, I don't have ADHD and I am still like that.
Yeah. you actually get stuff done on more regularly than I do. Then I'm like, yeah. I just tell myself, I'm like, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Yeah, I share lots of cat photos and videos over on Blue Sky, so if you're interested, I have 3 wonderful cats who I adore a lot, and you can always see them there. And everybody here should also, I don't know, if y'all for some reason do not know Squid School,
Thank you for a really great
I'd be like,
discussion.
where have you been? But you should also go follow Jem over at Squid School.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll really quickly post my links into the stream chat here. That gets you to all of the stuff that I do. And there are roses as well. And this chat bot is awesome because it's putting them into both chats at the same time.
I'm so glad that
So
works.
now everyone can follow all of the things. This went off without a hitch. This is really cool. And now I have a cheese world. Thank you so much again for coming on, and thank you everybody for hanging out to listen. Rose has some Game Changer to watch, so she's gonna leave now.
I am. Only way to begin.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you for the chats, everybody. Everybody, thank you for the chatting that you did. And goodbye to my chat. I will be ending this here. No raid. Be good. Be well. Thanks for listening.